Where else would you start your mornings than with us here on Breakfast Central? We're here to give you everything you need to know when it comes to news and insightful discussions. I am Benga Borowa.
And I am Olive, and we're excited to be here again with these men who maybe communicated with themselves without telling me what the dress code for today is. But, I mean, it's good to stand out as a lady. This betrayal will not be sustained.
It's not a betrayal. We're men of timber and caliber.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow. Benga, you're too much, you know. That's why I appreciate you, all the time. It's not easy. But I think Olive has been inspired, and she will continue to be inspired by what took place yesterday. After all, a woman stood firm and reminded Nigerians that we do have a constitution and we do have a law. But what we've seen these days is that the constitution and law have all of a sudden been taken over by politicking and politics.
And she defied the odds. Kogi woman king. But let's leave that gist to the woman. It would be nice for Olive to deliver it.
And I'll start with a motivational speech. You know, that story has inspired me with a motivational speech. When enemies or when life puts barricades in front of you, take those barricades and fly over them. Wow. That is exactly what Senator Natasha
Shakespeare will be proud of
so I think that's just a round of applause.
Is it inspired by Shakespeare?
No. It's inspired by the delectable Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, who was supposed to have a homecoming, and a day before that an announcement was made by the state government banning large gatherings, convoys, and therefore blocking out the ability for her to come in by road or by water. But what her team and herself did was to figure out a way to circumvent that directive, and then they came in with a helicopter with massive support of Kogi State women and men out there applauding her, supporting her, rooting for her, cheering for her. And the question was, those 250,000 constituents who signed the recall form, who went to say that they're trying to recall her, where were they? Where were these 250,000 persons? So now, in the speech where she addressed, you can see the teeming population of people. And to be honest, many of the reactions we've seen are people saying, you cannot buy this, you cannot fake this. It looks like organic loyalty. It looks like people who are excited to be there, right?
And then when she was...
Sorry?
Yeah, in the hot
sun. And when she was addressing the people, she said that she did not break any laws. She did not. She's a Nigerian woman who's coming home as the senator representing Kogi people. She's coming home to speak with her people, to celebrate Eid with her people. But let's take a listen.
There was no activity. So what did they do? They went into some rooms and assembled a few of them and started filling in the petitions themselves. That was what they did. And I believe INEC has been notified of this. And this actually is another litmus test on INEC to redeem its image. 250,000, really? 250,000 here in Kogi Central came out in just about how many days? 3. In 2 days? In 2 days, 250,000 people came out to sign petitions for the recall of the most performing senator in Nigeria. Are they for real? From my own personal perspective, what I see INEC doing is aiding and guiding the petitioners on how to perfect their illicit acts. The first time the petition was submitted, they didn't have address, phone numbers, and all of that. So we ran a check on the status of registration of the association, which sponsored my recall, Kogi Central Political Frontier, and the CAC report came negative that association is not registered. So I'm still waiting. I'm wondering why INEC has not yet made a statement to that effect.
That's just one of the many things she spoke about. So many areas were covered. She talked about the attempt to recall her, also talked about the case and, the case going to court, stating that Justice Obiora had recused himself from the case because of a petition by Senator Godswill Akpabio. However, She alluded to the fact that from information she's gotten that it wasn't really him recusing himself, but that he was intimidated. There was a threat to him. So there are strong allegations that were being made there. And she's also said that the case has been handed over to Justice Nyako, and she hopes that Justice Binta Nyako will be able to withstand the pressure, which then reminds me, the popular Justice Binta Nyako of Nnamdi Kanu's case. And you know, this is another very dicey case, and it will be interesting to see how this will turn out.
Absolutely. Like you said, she said quite a lot of things. And the part I wanted to talk about was law enforcement. She said she had not broken any laws. According to the Kogi State Commissioner of Information, he granted an interview yesterday after the incident and said, look, it's not the governor that will give orders on who to arrest or when to arrest someone. It's the Kogi State Police Commander would use their discretion. But according to her, she said she's broken no laws. And luckily, or would I say thankfully, there was no breakdown of law and order. And she also anticipated that if there was a breakdown of law and order, hold Senate President Akpabio and former Governor Yaya Bello responsible. But thank God those elements, maybe they ate too much salaries and they couldn't wake up to disrupt the so-called elements that they saw in the security report.
Right.
So,
I mean, it's very interesting because in that same conversation, when he talked about not haven't broken the directive, a security directive given by the state government. He said, yes, nobody's talking about a law. We're saying about security directives, and that's what she broke, and that the government got intelligence, security intelligence, that there was going to be a breakdown. So they asked him.
Breakdown by?
Breakdown of law and order.
By who?
They did not tell us who.
Elements.
And when they asked him in the conversation, when they asked him that, okay, so was there a breakdown? He said, yes. Look at the statements she was making, the insightful statements she was making. You know, that those things can trigger people, that if they had not cordoned off and put those stringent measures to prevent the convoy and all that, people could have come in and use unscrupulous elements.
He did use unscrupulous elements. Sometimes I ask a question. Do we agree now that Nigeria is made up of illiterates?
That's a strong statement.
Are we all illiterate?
No.
It's a question.
Okay, yes.
Is Nigeria now, do we have citizens who didn't go to school, who are senseless? These are questions you start to ask yourself when you hear some comments being made by people who have been elected into office.
Or do you think we're all under 5?
Or do you think we are, maybe we're 5-year-old. Oh, please, don't touch the wall. If you touch the wall, it's going to move. And then we step back and say, oh, I wouldn't touch it. So there are certain sentiments or statements being made by people who have been elected into office or offices, and you don't expect them to say things that they say. One thing I looked out for was this. One, Natasha lives there. Are you trying to say that she should not come back to her house? It's like you going to work, like we all are at work, and want to go back home and they tell us, oh, you would never come into your house because we're going to barricade the whole place. For what reason? Why? And then I also feel so bad for taxpayers' money, because all the security operatives are using to block, everywhere, roads and all that. They are all on taxpayers' money, taxpayers' wages, and it's high time that people understand that. Listen, all our monies, the people of Kogi should be able to ask, those in power, that is this what our monies are being used for?
Look at what happened in the last administration under Yaya Bello. You use taxpayers' money
to break down the
road.
I think they should have learned. I'm glad that you mentioned that, because this is the same that Senator Natasha, and they broke down the road to our polling units to prevent people from going to vote. Yet she was able to find a way to be able to surmount that. Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan is that muscle of Eba that you swallow, whilst rushing your food, that refuses to go down your chest. Even when you use water to drink it, it refuses to go down. She has shown and continues to show them that she's going to fight to the finish. And for what it's worth, I think the moral of this story, or the lesson or the takeaway from here, is when you believe in something, hold fast to your convictions, regardless of what the world thinks. I know you saw when she was given the This Day Award, and she, in her acceptance speech, she said she almost didn't come for the award because of, she felt maybe she felt down, like people weren't supporting her, but just coming into the hall, hearing people applauding her, cheering for her, made her realize that she actually has more support than she knows. So she's that muscle that would refuse to go down, and she will fight to the finish.
To the men, please, let's be better men. Let's be gentlemanly. We saw Barack Obama, Martin Luther King. There's so many examples. Nelson Mandela. It's politics. We should be having competitive fights. Okay, she empowered constituents with X number of business ideas.
I'll do
double.
No, interestingly, what we have here in situations is, I mean, someone had said to me one time that they were doing a lot of work, because I was saying, no, you're doing so much work. Why aren't you showing a number of these things on your social media so people can say, as I was working, my boss called me and said, you're working too much, you're making the rest of us look bad. So that's unfortunately the kind of...
That's what happens in a dysfunctional society.
That's the right word, Benga. I take that word. We have a dysfunctional system where nothing really works. And if you try to be the shining light or the shining star, then they tell you, hey, come on, you're getting brighter than we are, so you need to tone it down a bit. But this should teach everyone a lesson that if you've been following this story, let's be honest, it's plain politics. Everybody is actually, politicking with everything. But at what time do we agree that politics has gone too far? I think for me, it's gotten too far when you try to deny the people of their civil rights. For instance, you can't tell me I cannot go to I'm still going to highlight that. You couldn't have told her she cannot come back home. It's a public holiday, and she says, listen, I want to come back home. So if she had decided to use the road, what would happen? You would block her, take pictures, do videos, and I put it on social media and call the press conference and say, yes, we told her to go back. She was about to come and cause trouble. But this time, she thought she was ahead of the game. Kind of like reminds me of the song, ahead of the game.
She really has been. So it's almost like before they think of something, they're thinking one step forward. She's already 3 steps ahead. Yeah. However, that's not to take away the fact that strong allegations have been made. Whilst we can make inferences of, this looks like these people did this because of her. If she's making strong allegations of the plot against her, I think it's also important that she's able to say, this is the information I've been able to gather, this is who I've been able to speak with, and this is what I've been able to find, to be able to make such strong allegations. But nobody's going to pretend that they don't know that what's happening here is politics.
It's a strong case. I mean, like you said, she did make some strong allegations too. The good news is that these allegations have also been put forth to the Nigerian police. We do hear that she's also presented that. These allegations are very strong, I must say. This time, they're very weighty, they're heavy. I mean, calling on the same Senate president again, and then also linking it with the current Kogi State governor, and saying that he was told to actually, unalive her. I mean, if you want to unalive someone, that's a strong statement to make, especially in
life and death.
Yeah, and then she said if she was to be unalived, it had to be in Kogi State and not in the Federal Capital Territory. So, question again for Natasha, isn't she also going too far? You see, this entire charade, I want to call it, or I would like to say this entire drama, is starting to lead to where we may not want it to lead to.
Well, if her life,
just feel that way.
If genuinely, I don't think that anyone whose life is at risk, if she can show evidence that she has information.
Proven the first one.
I mean, that one, I don't think that one she has to prove that to us. If she can prove to law enforcement agencies, she has her lawyers, she has law enforcement agencies, and she has enough evidence to show that her life is at threat. There's nothing like going too far. Anybody will go too far to defend their life, really.
And so, someone of her status, I'm sure she understands the gravity
of her being able to say something that's
an allegation. So we'll give her the benefit of
that. She's always been a fighter. She's never stopped fighting. And I understand that this is a conversation that would definitely lead to more conversations today. But let's move on to another story now. It's very sad. And this story, guys, when I actually, had to read through it again, it kind of like struck a part of me that made me ask the same question I had asked here yesterday on the show. Calling on the #1 citizen of Nigeria, which is President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, are you going to call a state of emergency in Benue State? Because eventually the youths in Benue State decided to take it upon themselves to come out and protest. There has been a series of reports concerning killings of indigenes. Women have been, in other words, raped. Farmers have been, decapitated, and so on and so forth. And yet, they've reported these cases to security operatives. Nothing has been done. Not just that, they said what even triggered this was the fact that a young man was equally shot And while he was shot, they tried to rush him to the hospital. He didn't make it. And just before then, there was another attack. So the Benue youths decided to take it upon themselves to say, listen, enough is enough. They came out huge numbers yesterday, and they obstructed the roads and told everyone it is high time either the security operatives or the president does something, or else nothing will happen. But let's take a look at the video and see for ourselves.
We will do our peaceful protest. No man born of a woman can stop us, because enough is enough. Look at the way every night people will be chased from their homes, people will be killed, people will be kidnapped. Today we are expecting another killing. Today we are expecting another kidnapping. Today we are expecting flying enhancement. Today we are expecting people's properties to be destroyed. How can we remain like this? Enough is enough. We use this video to call again on the executive governor of Benue State. I said earlier, anybody telling you to go is a lie. Anybody telling you to see is a lie. Just yesterday, a man was arrested from Agatu because he needs to frame the herbicide on his farmland to farm again, because farming season is approaching. And we know that the police came to arrest that man. For what reason? There's an open grazing law in Benue State. Yeah, we are not supposed to see anybody doing open grazing in Benue State. And if there's open grazing in Benue State, the person has committed the law against the law. The person already committed against the law. And if you have committed, why are you harassing innocent people, innocent farmers? Why are you making us homeless? We are beginning to suspect our leaders. Yes. And their hands are in this thing. This security, this more money to government. This security, this more money to local government. Yes. This security, give more money to the state government. Yes. And that is why they have refused to do that, so that their security votes will be going faster and faster. Just yesterday, this reasonable man who has been of succor to several families was just shot.
You could hear the passion in his voice.
Yeah. I saw a reaction to this video, and someone said he said how strategic and how convenient, and that why is it now that they are doing all of this because of the Uromi killings? Remember the tribal coloration that we had seen as soon as the Uromi killings became mainstream conversation, and the religious coloration as well. And I felt like that was very unfair, which leads me back to what I said yesterday again, that two truths can coexist. The fact that people were involved in a mob attack, and these people should be brought to face the law, because Nigeria should not be a jungle. Unfortunately, we're still seeing that people are acting like we're in a jungle. And secondly, insecurity is a challenge. And if the people of Uromi, the people of Benue, the people in Plateau,
it's their reality.
It's their reality. I remember being in a gathering once with friends, and somebody said, "Please pray for my family." I got news yesterday that there were sporadic shootings. This was in Plateau State, and I don't know what's going to happen by morning. We're having like a fellowship, and then we all have to start praying. That's the reality of a number of Nigerians who go to bed and don't know if they're going to wake up the next day alive in their homes in certain parts of the of the country. But it feels like in certain other parts we're shielded from this reality, and in a way we've become desensitized to what is happening. It's almost like, hey, they've killed this person. In fact, the newspaper headline won't even have it on the front page. There'll be one tiny corner there.
And it's just numbers.
It's just numbers. And it's sad. I'm hoping that the president, I don't think it's just even a state of emergency in Benue State. President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, when he was president, did call for state of emergency as a result of insecurity challenges. Absolutely. It's a nationwide problem.
It is.
It is a nationwide. Everybody feels like, oh, it's not happening to me now. No. Like they say, it will touch everybody. If we're not careful, it will get to everybody.
I mean, it did get to a member of the Senate, of course, we do remember, what's his name?
I've forgotten his name as well.
My memory fails me this morning. I think we need some coffee, by the way. We should be getting that.
Thank you, guys.
Soon, so
that's true. They have on perfect.
So it did happen to, his aide, and he took it upon himself to say, listen, we need to attack this problem.
But that was, and that was criticized as well. People were saying, so if you did not touch your aid, it wouldn't have been a problem. Because I remember those were the conversations that we had.
Like Joe said in his opening statement, it gets to a level where you say enough is enough. That's why they took to the streets. They've made several reports to the constituted authorities that, please, this it's been attacking us. And what makes you a man if you cannot provide security for your immediate family and community? What's the role of the president, commander-in-chief of the armed forces? What's the role of the governor? If these people have failed, what are you leaving them to? It's almost like there's a culture of impunity. Their hands are tied, and you allow someone to keep taking shots at me. It will get to a boiling point where they would have to be replaced.
Absolutely, we're pushing people to the wall.
Yeah. Let me just take it from the way you said it. Someone interpreted it quite differently. It sounded a bit, not too clean, but he said it's what they're going through in these communities is like when your hands are tied, and then you're watching men take turns on your wife.
That is even a practical reality of some people.
Some of them, because they say their women go, some don't return. So you see, there is a reality that a lot of Nigerians have not heard and seen. And I think it beckons on all of us. I mean, we know News Central is doing its best, and we'll definitely continue to do our own best. I also think that it's high time these guys start telling their stories. These realities need to be brought to the open. They are. I think we need to do more, because we stand here every morning, we're calling on the president, they are calling on the president. We just saw a video where they're saying things need to be done. They're calling on the governor, Hyacinth Hilaire, and saying we need to do things. I think we need to amplify more.
We also need communication from the government side. They need to give us regular updates. What are you doing about the situation? Are you aware of the situation? What are your shortcomings? What help do you need from communities and civilians? And we all have a role to play.
The security challenge is the reason why a number of people have even jackpot out of the country and refuse to come back, because they just think I need to be in a place that guarantees security. But we'll continue to talk about these stories as they come up. Let's now bring you latest update that Burkina Faso has taken another step in its severing itself from the rest of us here, us mere mortals. And now they have redefined what their legal attire should look like. They've moved away from the colonial attire to a traditional Burkina Faso attire. And that's what you can see there. It's black adorned with gold, and their flag, their Burkina Faso flag. And I mean, very interesting there. Part of the reasons they've given, of course, would be that one, they're moving away from colonial mentality and decolonizing their judiciary, and that secondly, it's actually cheaper, and they are promoting their domestic fabrics and the likes.
Well, don't forget that Ibrahim Traore has, since he took over power, or the reins of power, he has made one thing and one thing clear, that they would not allow neo-colonialism in any sort of form to continue in that part of Africa. And that's exactly what he's doing. But as we speak about this,
maybe we should ask Nigerian lawyers what they think about this. Do you think that here in Nigeria as well we should adopt that and set aside the wig and gown and maybe start to look for Ashoki, Adire, Akwacha, and all our traditional attires?
I can only picture.
I would like it. I would like it anyway.
What's the name of that Igbo attire with lion head?
Ishago. I love it. All right. Let's head to our top stories this morning to share with you what we are discussing this morning on Breakfast Central.
Natasha holds homecoming rally. That's what she says. We'll talk about this extensively. Confusion erupts as copies of Edo Tribunal judgment leaks. I don't know if you guys heard about this.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a conversation we're going to have this morning. And April Fool's Day, celebration of human creativity. What happened yesterday? Well, I'm sure you would laugh when you see that report. Family cries foul as 24-year-old dies in Delta Police custody. A very sad story. Plus, we'll bring to you the front pages of the newspapers here this morning on Breakfast Central. We're fired up. Let's do this as you stay with us.
The embattled Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan defied a government ban and stormed her constituency in Kogi Central yesterday, arriving in a helicopter despite restrictions placed by the state government and the police. A massive crowd of supporters gathered in Ihima, Okehi local government area to welcome the PDP lawmaker who has been facing political persecution, including a Senate suspension and a recall process.
Addressing the crowd, Senator Akpoti-Uduaghan alleged that a meeting was held between Senate President Godswill Akpabio and former governor of Kogi State, Yaya Bello, where plans were discussed to recall her from her office and even eliminate her. She insisted that her persecution was politically motivated. Now, join us this morning to discuss this development is legal practitioner Barrister Evans Ufeli. Warm welcome to you. Thanks for joining us on Breakfast Central.
Morning.
Good to see you. Fresh from
the abroad. maybe a good place to start the conversation would be to ask if any laws were broken, because she kept saying, I have not broken any laws. I have come to be with my people. She's an Ibira woman who's come to celebrate Eid with her people. And, you know, there had been a decree or a directive, a security directive. So has she done anything illegal?
Well, the law is against procession, convoy procession. That is what the law is targeted against. And it's one that actually ordinarily will violate citizens' rights to movement, however they choose to move. Okay, we know that under tense security situation, your rights to movement and all that, as predicated on that section 35, can be taken off for the purposes of security. But in the case on that reference, it was procession. You know, that's what the law is targeted against. Okay. Now, according to her, she came with an helicopter. She was not in any procession, and she had carried out what she wanted to do and all that. So, for me, from the point of view, I've not seen any violation. I've not seen any violation.
They also banned public gatherings.
Yeah, they banned
for security.
Yeah, they banned public gatherings. But you ask yourself, in Kogi State, what is the security issue in Kogi State? I mean, we know the tense security situation in River State. What exactly is the security issue in there? The law was actually made in bad faith, targeted against just her person. That is what I think about it, and that is the truth. The government can decide to stretch it left, right, and center to find violations and all that. But the truth is that the Constitution is supreme. That's the first thing we must understand, that even when you are making subsidiary legislations, when they run against the Constitution will supersede it. So I don't agree that governors or lawmakers in the state should make laws just to repress individuals. That's not why laws should be made. Laws should be made to project society. Okay. These same persons, they are saying they should not gather, they should not do procession. How many laws have the State House of Assembly of Kogi State made to alleviate poverty, for example? How many laws have they made to enhance humanity? Okay, so if they have not made any, and if they are not in that direction of making and projecting the lives of the people forward, but making laws to teleguide one another as politicians, or to fight among themselves and use the people as a guinea pig.
So you think this law is politically motivated? Very politically motivated.
It's just against her and all that. So there's nothing. I mean, you see that her opposition from her constituency. First of all, the mandate was stolen. Okay, after the elections, it was the court that restored it. Okay, now along the line, she had problem with the National Assembly. She's been suspended now. Her opposition, they are back alive, okay, to look for a way to discredit her. First, they told the people that they are going to empower them. They should come and sign and show their voters card and all that, only for it to turn out that they were doing that to recall her, okay? Now look, you need to check the intentions behind every action I've been taking against her, including the law made, okay, and all that. So I'm not encouraging dissent, or I'm not saying people should break law or go about, but laws should be sincere. They should have human face, okay? If you are a representative of a constituency, you cannot make a law to say that your constituents should not gather to hear from their representative. I mean, she's been away for so long, from the National Assembly to the US to all the whatever media places. Now, this is homecoming. You can't just come and then make a law that she should not come home, or if she's going to come, there should be no procession, or people should not gather. I mean, it's because this law is even antithetical to democracy, because ordinarily you are supposed to be having a review, either monthly, quarterly review. Your lawmakers should come back home. That's why they need to have constituency offices. It's just that in Nigeria, democracy is not about
the pulse of what's going on.
Yes, it's just that in Nigeria, democracy is not about the people at all. That is why they come up with this kind of law. that you can be a senator and just remain in Abuja all your life and never get back to your people and all that. So people go about making laws against a lawmaker going to meet the people who gave her mandate for the purpose of which she's serving. I mean, I don't think this law is in bad faith. We all know that it's in bad faith. And we should be able to speak the truth at all times.
Well, they probably had some security directives that we're not aware, some security information that we're not aware. But beyond security, Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan was able to address her constituents, and she spoke about INEC, talking about how the responsibility lies on INEC to be able to, disprove a lot of the fake signatures that she's made reference to. But let's take a look at the video.
Senate, so that I could resume my functions as a senator duly elected by my people. But if by chance I am not recalled at time, I will still continue carrying out my activities. Tomorrow we're going to commence the reconstruction of 3 primary healthcare centers in Kogi Central, and we have a lot of other activities on. We also have some empowerment programs that will be coming up this week here. It doesn't stop me from doing my work, even if it means I have to work extra hard, since I'm out of office temporarily, to make my people feel the good impact of democracy. But I pray that Nigerians across, even beyond Kogi Central, will be able to continuously lend their voices, because an injustice to me is an injustice to everyone. We all see what is happening to Governor Fubara himself, whereby he's suspended for 6 months as well, against the backdrop, against the Constitution. I did mention that the Nigerian Constitution does not allow the suspension of elected.
The few videos that circulated and pictures were in Ododo's ward and Yahya Bello's ward. Most parts of Kogi Central, there was no activity. So what did they do? They went into some rooms and assembled a few of them and started filling in the petitions themselves. That was what they did. And I believe INEC has been notified of this. And this actually is another litmus test on INEC to redeem its image. 250,000, really? 250,000 here in Kogi Central came out in just about how many days? In 2 days? In 2 days, 250,000 people came out to sign petitions for the recall of the most performing senator in Nigeria. Are they for real? From my own personal perspective, what I see INEC doing is aiding and guiding the petitioners on how to perfect their illicit acts. The first time the petition was submitted, they didn't have address, phone numbers, and all of that. So we ran a check on the status of registration of the association, which sponsored my recall, Kogi Central Political Frontier, and the CAC report came negative that association is not registered. So I'm still waiting. I'm wondering why INEC has not yet made a statement to that effect.
We came here and they said around 250,000 people have signed the recall notice to recall your Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan to back from the National Assembly. Why do you want to recall her back?
The recall process of our distinguished Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, I think, is an arrangement between people who do not mean well for the people of Kogi Central. She has not done anything to us. There is nothing the federal government has given to her to give us that she has not given to us. We don't have issues with her personally. The issue with the Senate President shouldn't bother us at all. So it is just some greedy elements who has lost touch with the reality on ground that wants to recall her.
But did you sign the recall? Did you sign it?
Nobody visited my polling unit to ask for our signature for the recall of our senator. We are waiting for the people who forged our signature to come, if INEC deem it fit, to come and verify those forged signatures. We shall arrest some people who forged our signature. We've already submitted the petition to the police. informing the police that people forged our signature for the recall of Natasha. So we are waiting for INEC to come. So we will show INEC that.
A lot of pressure on INEC. This is said to be the litmus test. Let's get your reaction to that.
Yes, Section 110 of the 1999 Constitution says you need 51%, okay, of those who voted, those who directly gave their mandate, not anybody, okay.
And she had
so
how many thousand? I think like 53 or 54,074 that voted for her. Are we talking of those that voted for her or those that voted in general for the election?
Those who voted for her, not those who, the mandate she got that gave her the victory, those same persons, 51% of them are now saying we don't want her there. Okay, not just anybody. Right. But what they are doing is they just went there and anybody they find, as long as you have, and they are taking signatures and all that. So
why is INEC wasting its own time? Because INEC knows the laws. It's almost like INEC is teleguiding them. They submitted a recall, some signatures at first. INEC told them, look, these signatures don't have addresses, email addresses, and some information. They went back, came back in record time. It should have made Guinness Book of Records. And they gave it back to INEC. And INEC is now saying now they are proceeding to a referendum. Is it that the INEC is not following its own checks and guidelines?
If they did it before and they didn't get it right,
why?
And they are still within time. If they are still within time, they can go back and do whatever they want.
But why didn't INEC tell them is the signatures of 51%?
It's not INEC that should tell them. They should read the law before they start the exercise. INEC is not the... INEC's role is to look at what they have done. And this will have to get back to the National Assembly. Okay?
Okay.
So if what they have... the truth is, even after they finish whatever they are doing, and they take a decision that's against us, you can still go to court, to challenge it.
There are legal options.
Yes, there are options here, because we know that in Dino Melai's case, Dino Melai didn't have problem actually with the National Assembly at that time, the Saraki Assembly at that time. So when they got through and it came back to the House, because the Senate President will have to, give a vent to it, okay? But in this case, what this case is that she have a problem with the National Assembly. So by the time it goes through the process and the process is clean enough, once you get back to the National Assembly, she's gone. Because the National Assembly want her out.
Exactly.
You understand? Which is contrary to the case of Dino Melai, where it was few persons who were in the field and all that did all that. So I think they should continue the process and they should do it very well, because where mistakes are found anyway, already they are getting it wrong, by impersonation.
Exactly.
Which is visibly seen by everyone and all that. And the people from the constituency have also said that there's an element of fraud in it. At the beginning, they told them that they came to empower them, except that I've not seen evidence of that. They should have evidence of where maybe text messages were sent to them for empowerment or voice notes, something like that. They should gather all that, because once fraud is inferable from the process, it kills the process, no matter what anybody thinks about it.
All right. Anyway, we do have a man who was there yesterday in covering the entire happenings there in Kogi State. So Gary Ibrahim joins us this morning. Good morning to you. And if you can hear us, can you bring us up to speed on what really took place yesterday? What did you see? Would you say that the people that came out en masse, that we did also see in that video, were they the same people that made up the 250,000 in numbers that want Senator Natasha out of her position?
Oh, good morning, Joe. Good morning to everyone in the studio, and good morning to our viewers. Of course, interesting question, and I'm not surprised, because we are living in interesting times as well. I mean, who would have thought that something that was termed misconduct on the floor of the Senate would degenerate into me leaving the National Assembly and coming here, right here, in Okene, the particular constituency of Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, over those issues that degenerated, leading to, lawsuits and counter lawsuits, and then the question of whether she's going to be recalled and the legality or not of that process. Well, we've been here since yesterday, of course. We were at her country home, where she was received, of course, by a multitude of people. I know definitely that I will not be exaggerating when I say these multitudes were in their thousands, because, of course, we saw some of these videos, online. Even on TV, we had some of the crowd that welcomed her. It was a welcoming that was simply characterized by a large show of love. I do not, from what I observe, see anybody or any person, within that crowd who had any feeling of grudge against her, or would want to, sign any petition to either recall her back or bring her back from the National Assembly because they are not satisfied, with her representation of her people. You can see the streets. Currently, I'm at the popular Total Junction here in Okene, and as you can see from behind me, activities are going on normally. You would recall that yesterday, Tuesday, the local government chairman had declared a curfew in this local government following the ban, of course, on movements within the state, movements, car convoys and the likes of that, all of course because of the expectation that she was going to be coming into Kogi State, Okene to be precise, to a rousing welcome by her people. But even that did not do much, because they defied the crowd. Some of them even described it, as a hero's welcome or a heroine's welcome, if you would call it that in this case. They said there's a ban on convoys. Well, she didn't come in a convoy, she came in a helicopter. They said there's a ban on public movement. She didn't do the movement in public, she did it in her private residence, yet the turnout was still so massive. If you're not here to see what's going on, definitely you would think that, all of the issues and all of the news in the media is one that's so serious, to the fact that you would hear that it's 250,000 people and you would want to believe that, oh, maybe she's gone. But I'm telling you, the story is a completely different narrative here in Okene at the moment.
All right. Thank you very much, Tage, for bringing us up to speed on what happened yesterday. From the conversations that you've heard amongst people and the conversations you've heard with people, what were the reactions to a number of the strong claims that she made? She addressed INEC, she addressed the governor, she addressed the Senate president, and made allegations of an attempt on her life. What was the reaction that you felt from the people as she spoke?
They believed her. I mean, she took everybody to the cleaners. If it's not the Senate president, it's the leadership of the National Assembly. If it's not the leadership of the National Assembly, of course, it's former Governor Yaya Adoza-Bello. Even the current governor, of course, was not spared in this situation. You recall that she had accused him of being in cahoots with the former governor, to perfect plans for a recall, which she also said is an exercise in futility, because even the petition that was submitted to INEC in her case did not have the necessary means of identifying those who submitted the petition. Hence, in itself, it was faulty. And of course, she did not hold, herself from saying that, of course, it was all a ploy by those she had deemed her political adversaries, if you may. Trying to see if they could succeed, of course, with the blessing of the Senate president, to ensure that she is pulled out of the Senate and to ensure that she is dealt with for some of the issues and some of the things that she was accused, of doing on the floor of the Senate, just to set an example of her for others to see that you cannot go against the system and, of course, get away with it scot-free. So these are some of the nuances that we've gotten, and of course, the people continue to remain solidly behind her. There's not a single person that I've spoken to here in Okene who has had anything negative to say about her, or who is not in support, of her. She literally here is the people's senator. I'm not saying this because I'm here. I'm saying this because this has been the feeling that I've been getting from all of them. I really wish that I could get somebody to speak here, but attempts to get people to speak has, of course, been a futile one. But we'll continue trying. We'll get the people's faces on the camera so they speak for themselves, by themselves, and you hear from the horse's mouth as to what they feel and how they feel about the entire situation and, of course, about their senator. Back to you in the studio.
Thank you so much, Sakir Ibrahim, News Central correspondent, speaking there at the popular Total Junction in Okene, Kogi State. We'll get back to you in our subsequent broadcast. Thank you. Now, Barrister Ofeli, one of the things that the weighty allegations that Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan made at that homecoming was very weighty and serious allegations against the the Senate President Godswill Akpabio and former governor of Kogi State, Yahya Bello, about an assassination plot. How do we determine the credibility of these allegations, and what should she do at this point? Because it's just taking the whole conversation to another level.
Well, this assassination attempt she's referring to, I would rather advise that she restrain herself from calling names. Okay, because you could be sued if you don't have evidence to the event that somebody is actually orchestrating assassination against you. It's a common place in politics, and people know. But knowing is not enough. You need to have evidence. So at the level or at the general scale, you should restrain from calling names. Okay, you can actually make the same point without calling names, just to safeguard yourself from unnecessary dragging here and there.
And is it a better move to have said it publicly before telling the security operatives, or should she have done both? Because if you read part of what was said here, it says the second thing he told them is that he should try and kill me. He told him the killing should not be done in Abuja, but at home here, Ibira land. We didn't notify the security agents. I called on the media houses, and I want them to publish the news ahead of time, that this is the nature of their meeting. She's talking about the meeting that was had.
Yes, she didn't notify the security agencies in Kogi State. That's what you're referring to.
Well, I believe that might have been what was said here.
She has her own personal security.
Okay. Or maybe, anyway.
Her security was withdrawn. That is the official security after her suspension was withdrawn. So she's left without security. And now she's an easy target, okay, for whoever is plotting against her. So it's good she stated it, she made that point clear, you know, that I've been receiving threats and all that. Okay, it's good she made that. And to her people, it's good she made that point clear. What I'm saying is that mentioning names is what is not accurate, what should not be done. Because you have to be precise. If you are called now to come and defend that statement, you can't just make oral statements, and you have to present evidence to the fact that this person made a confessional statement that he was sent by this person to come and take. There must be such issues like that before you can actually. If you don't have that evidence, it's not wise, it's not sound in law for you to make such an expression, because you could be wrong. It might even be a different person entirely that is attempting that, trying to carry out that act, not necessarily your opponents. So yes, she needs to restrain from calling names. That's what I think.
I get that. Some experts have also highlighted the fact that maybe she's just putting those names out because those are the names that are known to her and also to the public. But let's move away from that. I want us to discuss the Constitution, the Nigerian Constitution.
Yeah.
In her talk in addressing the crowd, she made mention of how the Constitution has all of a sudden lost its credibility. She mentioned the River State governor, what they've done to Fubara, and what they're trying to do to her. As a lawyer, do you think that Nigeria's constitution, the constitution that governs how we move, how we do things as a country, is actually still being upheld, is strong? It's actually what people are used to in terms of those in power? Or do you think there's a paradigm shift that is now starting to weaken Nigeria's constitution, and what's the impact in line with what we've seen happening to
it's not the constitution that have lost its credibility. It's the leaders that are applying extra constitutional means in governance. Okay, the president of Nigeria, Bola Tinubu, is playing politics with the constitution. That's exactly what is going on, because if you look at section 305, upon which the state of emergency was declared, the conditions that should warrant that were not met. If you look at it in terms of war, pestilence, disease, breakdown of law and order, and all that. Threats and all that. There are so many conditions. None of these conditions were met. River State was not under any kind of war. It was Wike, his own minister, that was orchestrating the crisis that was ongoing with the State House of Assembly and the governor. Okay? But then look at the proclamation. Okay, the Constitution says you have a proclamation, you're reducing to writing in the state gazette, official gazette. In that proclamation, he called out the governor for destroying the State House of Assembly. In that proclamation, he didn't call out the other part, his own minister and the National Assembly and all they were doing. So he took side. Then, under a state of emergency, we have the National Assembly's concurrence, which is supposed to be a safeguard. If the National Assembly, if the decision of the National Assembly is sought and declined, this wouldn't have been productive. But they just rubber stamped it, and before you know it, suspended the governor. I mean, if you look at the law itself, the Constitution, there's no place in the Constitution where you should suspend the governor under a state of emergency. Had it been the state of emergency was declared as a result of pestilence or disease or outbreak of, yes, would you, because of disease, suspend the governor?
Right.
That's a good angle.
Because it's not just only when there's political crisis. There are a lot of issues.
That's a good angle to look at that.
Even during war, should you suspend the governor?
Mr. Ofeli, the president's background is not law. That's why he has an attorney general, the chief legal officer, who happens to be a very senior lawyer, has also doubled down on this and said, you know, there are no infractions to the Constitution. You also had the House of Lawmakers who shouldn't have subjected the ratification to a voice vote, violate obvious infractions of the Constitution. We've seen this, that's what Joe raised. We've seen this happening frequently. What are the implications for this regular violation of constitutional provisions and infractions for the country and our democracy?
Let me start with the Attorney General. The case of the Attorney General referendum is quite very unfortunate because the Attorney General suffers from what I call partisan obscurantism.
What does that mean?
Yeah, what it means is that his professional duty has been blurred by his partisanship. He's unable to make legal reasoning because of that partisan obscurantism. He's unable to see the law as the law is because he wants to please his masters. Because it is clear in the law that there is nowhere a governor should be, because the governor holds the mandate of the people. Let me tell you, a governor is to the state what the president is to the nation. They all have mandates, and that mandate can also be taken away by impeachment. Okay, looking at the doctrine of separation of power and checks, okay? So under no circumstance will you suspend the governor who have the mandate of the people. That's wrong, okay? By law is wrong. Okay, that is why an Attorney General should be an Attorney General of the people, not the Attorney General of the president. In civilized democracy, Attorney Generals go to court. In those democracies where Attorney General is elected, they go file case against the executive for the people. He is supposed to be the Attorney General of the masses. He is supposed to be filing cases. In fact, after a state of emergency like this, he's supposed to go to court to challenge the president's decision in civilized democracy, where the Attorney General is not appointed, where he's independent. Okay, that's what he's supposed to do. But look at what he was saying. He even called a press conference where he told the whole world that the president has not violated any law and the rest of that. And I find that rather very disconcerting.
What about the National Assembly?
Yeah, the National Assembly's case is another unfortunate incident because it is at that level that they should have stopped this, because the oversight function that they have under Section 88 and 89 of the 1999 Constitution is to ensure that the president does not become arbitrary. Okay? Once the president took that decision to suspend him, even before the National Assembly's concurrence was sought and obtained, the president had already sworn in the sole administrator. Now, that sole administrator took an oath of office.
That's another thing.
With a non-existent law. Then he went to Rivers State and started dissolving ministries, agencies, and all that. So the level of illegality, and I'm surprised why he was allowed into Rivers State. I am Rivers. My mom is from Opobo in Rivers State. I was born in Port Harcourt, Air Force Base, where my dad has served as an Air Force officer. Okay. So when it borders on Rivers, it touches me they shouldn't have allowed him to, because once you have an illegality, you have every right and cause to ensure that you throw him out of that place.
Or you cannot put something on nothing and expect.
Yes, you cannot. Lord Dennis said that in UAC versus Mark Ford, that if a matter is void, the law is a nullity. As you cannot put something on nothing and expect it to stand it to collapse. That's putting something on nothing, and people allow it.
All right. I want us to quickly talk about Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan's case in court. We've seen Justice Obiora-Egwuatu has recused himself from the case, and he said that that's, of course, because Senator Godswill Akpabio has alleged bias. Even though, again, Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan has claimed that from what her findings, it wasn't just about bias, that he was intimidated. But that's not the issue. Now the matter will be handled or handed over to Justice Binta Nyako, the famous Justice Binta Nyako from Nnamdi Kanu's case. Should there be any worries or any concerns of how this might play out as well?
No, I don't think there should be any worries, because if it's not the final court, it's the court of first instance.
Yeah.
So she has options of appeal. So I don't think if she decides to compromise or whatever it is, we are not trained to preempt judges. That's why I'm being careful, or to preempt the outcome of a case.
Absolutely.
That I'm not, you understand? But there are other options, layers of appeal that she can explore. Okay, so the judge are recused. Every judge has a right to recuse himself for a case and give reasons. It's just to confide with the chief judge and say, see, I have this before me, I cannot undertake this and all that. So it's not uncommon, even though the public can't really get it right, because they are not lawyers. They will keep making stories around it, that he recused himself because of intimidation, he recused himself because of, a judge has a right under the law to recuse himself from a case where he finds out that he may not be objective.
Right.
Yes, based on maybe relationship, maybe whatever it is. So there's a right to do that. The end game is justice. So let's pursue justice, irrespective of whoever is involved.
Whoever is sitting or whatever.
So,
okay, and now that you've said that there have been no laws that have been broken, she's an Ibera woman who has the right to go home. The Commissioner of Information in Kogi State had said that it is left for security operatives to make what they will of this situation. Do you think that there might be the potential of this matter being investigated, and does she have any remedies if that should happen?
Yeah, I heard him last night when he said that, the commissioner, that the security agencies will take over from there, whether to arrest her or whatever it is. Well, if they arrest her, she has a lot of remedies. The constitutional safeguards is what she will rely on. Section 39 of the 1999 Constitution has given every individual, citizens, whether a senator or not, the right to freedom of expression. Okay? The right to have, and all that. And the only point where that right can be taken away temporarily is when you have tension. You have, there's no tension in Kogi State. Whatever is happening in Abuja, and maybe in Rivers State, where you have. So even if the governor comes up with any, or the State House of Assembly comes up with any law to suspend the right of the people temporarily for expression and all that, and if the conditions thereof, if the social and composition of the state is not such that there's any kind of disturbance or tension or whatsoever, that is the ground under which such can be set aside.
All right.
Because the constitution has to prevail,
Barrister Evans Ofeli, thank you so much for your time with us this morning. I guess the next few hours would unveil a lot with regards Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan. But we're moving on from this story. Officers of the Rapid Response Squad, RRS of Delta State Police Command, have allegedly tortured a 24-year-old upcoming musician, Paul Obuko, to death while in their custody. The family of the deceased are now demanding justice. News Central's correspondent, Austin Azu, brings us more in this report.
The family of late Paul Obuko, a 24-year-old emerging artist from Ogele North local government area of Delta State, are still grappling with his sudden death while in the custody of the Rapid Response Squad of the Delta State Police Command. Paul Obuko's brothers gave an account of the circumstances surrounding his death, stating that they were on their way to work when they were stopped by the RRS officers. Allegations suggest that the late Paul was brutally assaulted and tortured to the point of near death before being hospitalized, where medical doctors ultimately confirmed his death.
My president, they beat my brows. My president, they cry. My president, for money like this, now they can't come outside beat her. They are going for back. They are going for back. The boy, they grab, they beat her, they cry. They use wood, all you need. When he come outside, they feel they stand up. All you need, oh yeah. They whip her, all you need, and then they feel they stand up. When they talk.
For as far as they beat my brother die for illegal matter, may not be drugs. And they call boss hours, not see anything. No smoke, nothing. They say because of Camonica, I feel he pay me well.
He was fighting for his brother. I released my brother. Come on, that's the offense. So they now started beating him. Well, I don't know. It's in I'm so weak. I don't even know what to say. Like our family right now is very sad in this because of this situation.
Eloho Obokoko, mother of the late Paul, who couldn't hold back her tears, is demanding justice for her son.
They carry my pikin reach station. They tell my pikin say, if the boy when in Nagisiana not come, they not go release him. They can't really wait. The boy now with fear, and I say, okay, therefore release my younger brother come. He can't go to the station. He can't okay see me. For then after they begin beat the boy. They put her for sale. The next day when they can't come outside, drill the boy, break his hand and leg. Break his hand and leg, finish. Only they still carry and rush and go hospital. From one hospital to another. Now with the begin, they follow us, they rush the pikin. Till the pikin can't die this morning.
Reacting to the matter, human rights activist Victor Oje, who condemns the alleged police brutality, unlawful detention and gross human rights violations, says the officers behind Paul's alleged torture and death must be held to account.
So we want justice for Master Paul Obukowo. We want accountability from the police. We want these particular police officers that conspired to terminate the life of this 24-year-old Ugeli man here in Delta State. We want all of them to be brought to book and accountability.
The Delta State Police Command has issued a statement regarding the incident, indicating that an investigation has commenced to determine the circumstances surrounding the death of Paul Obokoko. In Delta for News Central, Austin Azu.
Really sad story there that Austin has reported, and I don't think that we're very unfamiliar with stories like this. It's really sad that you can't trust law enforcement to do its duty in a way that will not implicate the lives of the average Nigerian.
And the sad part is this is not a one-off. It's a recurring theme, and stories that we've heard from different parts of the country, and it makes you wonder, are you there to protect and serve? How can a young man, hale and hearty, that was in detention end up dead, and then you begin the cover-up processes? What if News Central was not here to amplify the story and give it a voice? It will be swept under the carpet. We've seen hundreds of cases like this, and we hope, and I'm sure Austin Azu will stay on the story, that we see the end of this, hear the side of the police, hear what they have to say about this, and it gets to force headquarters in Abuja, and if there's any element of foul play, those responsible should be... Any
element of foul play. We're already hearing the testimony from witnesses who are talking about how the boy was responsible
should be brought to justice.
Recently, I had the opportunity, I wouldn't say the opportunity, I was forced to visit the police, and going to Ikoyi, going to Banti, and so on. Whether we like it or not, we do have very good men in the police force. However, we also have those who are not a respecter of processes, life, and the law. It's still the same thing we just talked about. How, they say when the top is rotten, what do they say? It trickles down. So with this story, I think we're going to get Austin on board to find out, and also find chance to speak with the family. Hopefully we can do that. If not today, maybe tomorrow, because it looks very, simple, like it's a simple story. But to be honest, you cannot cannot even imagine what that family is going through, especially with the fact that you could see the officers who carried out this very this is a nefarious act. Yeah. It's an evil act to kill someone. She said they broke his arms, broke his legs.
In those circumstances.
What did he do?
I mean, even terrorists, the law wouldn't tell you to take terrorist lives that way.
Let me add this to the context. Just a few hours ago, we all here talked about the governor of Edo State, and of course that of Kano State coming together, and different persons, including the number one citizen president, condemning jungle justice. What do you call this?
Jungle justice. I mean, it's not even.
Is it not in relation? Is it not in the same family?
There's no element of justice.
There's no justice.
Yes.
So you give the person a chance to have
like
their lawyers.
Judicial killing.
Of course, let their lawyers represent them. If you have any case with them, let them handle it. You know, you want to get information out from them. There should be other means.
But I'm sure, I mean,
breaking
the fact that it's shown on News Central,
you know,
it will definitely get to the false.
I hope that it does, you know, because the unfortunate thing is impunity is our greatest challenge in Nigeria. The fact that certain things that should not happen, and nothing happens after that. You commit a crime, you act out of order, you follow undue process. And I mean, undue process sounds wrong. But at the end of the day, nobody does anything to you. Speaking of which, when he was talking about this not being the first case and how hundreds of cases like this have happened, did we ever get to the bottom of what's that community that was raised down in the Okwama community? One of the Okwama elders who had died as well in detention. Did we ever get to the end of that?
Update on that.
Really sad. Anyway, let's bring a recap of the conversations we've had this morning, and then we'll share with you what's coming up next. Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan makes new allegations in homecoming celebration. Evan Sufeli joined us this morning to talk about this. And Benue youth protest over herdsmen killings. We did bring that report at the start of the show this morning. And family cries foul as 24-year-old dies in Delta State Police custody. Really sad story. Delta State again. I mean, that's where the Okwama one happened, right?
Absolutely.
Coming up on Breakfast Central this morning, leaked Edo Governorship Tribunal judgment ignites controversy. Edo Tribunal set to deliver judgment today. An April Fool's Day celebration of humor and creativity. Do stay with us. Breakfast Central continues after this short break.
Thanks for staying with us here on Breakfast Central. Here on News Central, we're heading straight to the second hour. Well, copies of an unsigned document allegedly containing the Edo State Governorship Election Petition Tribunal's ruling have surfaced online, raising concerns about its authenticity. The document, which emerged just 24 hours before the tribunal's scheduled verdict, shows a split decision with two justices ruling in favor of Governor Monday Okpebolo of the APC and one dissenting in favor of PDP candidate Asue Godalo.
While Justices Wilfred Bochi and A.B. Yusuf upheld Okpebolo's election, citing that observed irregularities were not substantial enough to affect the results, Justice A.A. Adewale dissented, declaring the election invalid and ordering INEC to issue a certificate of return to Ighodalo. The leak has fueled speculation, with many questioning whether it represents the tribunal's actual judgment or mere speculation ahead of the official ruling. We're joined this morning to discuss this by an electoral law expert, Dr. Sam Oguche. Good morning, Dr. Oguche. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, good morning. It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
I think the first place to begin would be to ask about the authenticity of this document. Can we guarantee that this is a certified true copy of the judgment?
Well, to start with, if you look at the documents, the documents online, it is unsigned. And in law, an unsigned document has no value. So I can say from the beginning that what is circulating online has no legal value. So we cannot place any form of reliance on that document. So it can't be authentic.
All right.
So does it mean we should disregard everything that is contained in this leak, given that this leak came out just 24 hours before the actual judgment was meant to be given? Does it not give any semblance of credence to it? Can we not infer one or two things from this document?
Yes, you see, this is one of the social media, misbehavior, if I can put it in that form, in Nigeria. If you look at it, 24 hours before the judgment, but that does not give credence, that does not give value to the document. I can see why the National Assembly has repeatedly tried to regulate the use of social media. Because a document emerges online, it is unsigned, and if it is unsigned, it has no origin. I am aware of the fact that it raises concerns about the credibility, about the confidentiality of the entire legal process. But the fact that the document is unsigned tells us that it is a kind of rumor. And I would say that we should disregard it. If it eventually turns out to be true, then some people have to be brought to book. But as it is now, we cannot preempt what will happen. The fact that it is unsigned calls for a total disregard of the document circulating online. If it were a signed document, then we will be talking about it from another perspective. But if it is unsigned, then the authors are unknown. So I say that it's unreliable.
So if we are going by what you're saying, that the fact that it's unsigned makes it unreliable, what then might be a broader political strategy or picture for why this document has been leaked online?
Yes, there can be political dimensions to it. Looking at history, this thing can come up just to whip up sentiments, to cause chaos, because from the document, there's a winner, there's a loser. So those on the losing side will be restless at this point. And you can also see that it is possible for those on the winning side from the document to commence jubilation even ahead of the judicial pronouncement, which has not taken place. So it could be a political tactics, political strategy to cause chaos. And that's why I would say that, yes, even if it's so, Nigeria should wait for the judicial body duly constituted for the purpose of making that judicial pronouncement to do its job. When that is done, we will now know the origin. For now, we will not be able to say what's actually happening. It can be political in nature, but it is when the judgment is delivered and it is in line with what we are seeing that we'll start calling people to answer for this, because it's a matter that rubs on the credibility of the judiciary or the confidentiality of the entire process. And some people must answer for it if it turns out to be true. But for now, it could be a political strategy to weaken opponents, to weaken opposition, or to commence jubilation ahead of time. And what if it turns out to be the other way around? That is why it is necessary for us to tread with caution at this point in time, so that we don't overheat the politics.
Absolutely, and that's exactly what we're doing this morning. That's why we have you joining us to ensure that we do not hit up the polity, but of course help Nigerians better understand what this means, especially seeing a leaked, unsigned document in the public space. But I would like you to please hold on for a second. Let's quickly join our man who's on ground, because we do hear that judgment is expected today. We do have Joshua Marayi, who will be speaking with us. He is live in Edo State. He would be covering and ensuring that he brings to us a bit-by-bit update on what's really happening there. Good morning to you, Joshua. If you can hear us, can you speak to us?
I'm currently live at the National Judicial Institute in Abuja.
All right.
Yeah, and I was moved from being to Edo State to this venue. As you can see, behind me is the small hall that can barely contain not more than 200 persons. And I can tell you that this hall is filled at this time. Let me give you a glimpse of what the hall seems to be like. This is the hall, as you can see. I'm trying to gain access through the window. You can see it is a small hall and it's almost filled up. Now, just imagine how Nigerians, particularly party faithful from the ADC and the PDP, can find comfort in this particular place. But that is not the only thing that we are seeing at this moment. But coming into this premises, I took a look around and I saw that there is no one single policeman or security person in sight. This is a cause for alarm. Let me give you a glimpse of the environment here so you have a look for yourself. No single policeman, no security operative. And I can tell you for sure that most of the party faithful, they are all here awaiting the judgment. this is something that we need to be worried about.
Now, Joshua, what time are we expecting the judgment to be delivered?
We are expecting the three-man panel led by Justice Winifred Pochi to give judgment at exactly 9 a.m. It is few hours before 9 a.m., few minutes if I may say, but the judge is nowhere in sight. Nobody's hearing anything as regards when the judge will come, but we are expecting judgment to be ruled out at exactly 9 a.m.
All right, Joshua, have you also heard any conversations or comments being made by those who are waiting there in court about the leaked judgment or the leaked document online that is purported to be the leaked judgment?
Well, you can share the sentiment of so many people here who are saying that that seems to be like a political strategy to sway public opinion and public perception as regards the judgment of the tribunal. Well, they are saying that the party faithful I've spoke to a couple of times here are seeing it just like another, let me say, propaganda until that particular judgment is being read by the justices of this tribunal. That is only when they can confirm the veracity of that judgment and take necessary actions. But now they are seeing it just as fake news. That is what they are terming that particular piece of document gaining the rounds around social media and several internet platforms.
All right, Joshua, any sight on Aswigo Dalo or any? Have you seen anybody from his team? And have you also seen anyone from the current governor of Edo State, talking about Governor Monday Okwebolo, anybody from his team as well?
A few hours ago, I set my eyes on the legal advisor of the APC, who is currently here. That's the person of Okoro. Alongside some of the Edo State House of Assembly members living here.
Okay. Well,
and some party faithful from the APC and the PDP, different parties yet to arrive in this particular venue.
Very interested. Very interested there. Anyway, Joshua, we have to let you go now. We do have a guest we are indeed in a conversation with. Thanks for that update, and these showing us how tiny that room is.
I'm not sure he'll be allowed to give us, I don't know that he'll be allowed to give us live updates, but I mean, it's good to get a sense of what the place looks like before the judgment is delivered. Let's now bring back to the conversation Dr. Sam Oguche, who's an electoral law expert. Just like you had said earlier, our correspondent has shared that that's the same sentiment a number of people who are in the venue, who are at the court premises, have shared, that they think it's a political strategy. Should we find out the potential of this being beyond the political strategy and it being in line with the actual judgment, what would the next steps be?
Yes, it is then, if that happens to be true, I think it calls for a thorough investigation by the NJC, because some people are definitely behind it. There is this judicial confidentiality that gives credence to whatever the courts and the tribunals do. And if judgments leak, then some people must be brought to book. When there is no punishment, there is no deterrence.
Now, Doctor,
so it has to be investigated at the end of the day to see that those who are actually behind it are actually brought to book. Because, you know, if it is true, then it robs on judicial integrity. And as I said earlier, it could be a political strategy that people will say, oh, this judgment was out even before it was delivered, so public trust is affected, is eroded. So it could be what the perpetrators are out to achieve to weaken the credibility of the process, to erode public trust in the entire process. And I must comment that I'm highly disappointed at the security of the environment.
Absolutely.
Your correspondent has shown us what the environment looks like. Looking at the fact that there is this issue of a leaked judgment, and that the entire thing, the entire process, the entire atmosphere will be heated, you can see the supporters of both sides there. That is why we should have adequate security personnel on ground.
Whose responsibility is it, Dr. Oguche, to provide security in court premises?
Yes, the NGI, where the tribunal is sitting, should be adequately secured at this point.
Whose responsibility is it to provide this security, sir?
It is a collaboration between the tribunal and the security agencies to secure the environment. Because already people are having opinions. Opinions are divided on this issue. So we shouldn't leave the environment the way it is. It is not good for the judiciary, it is not good for the litigants, it is not good for the supporters, it is not good for everybody. So the entire environment should be adequately secured at this point in time, especially as the judgment is about 32 minutes away. I think I call on those responsible to provide adequate security so that there will be no breakdown of law and order in the environment there.
I also want to follow up on a question my colleague had raised earlier. In your professional opinion, what can the courts do to prevent this sort of leakage, either from the judiciary, online, because especially in high-stake political electoral matters like this, there are serious security implications that could lead to a breakdown in law and order, to show that this is a very serious issue to tamper with? And also, what can the courts do to uphold the integrity of the judiciary so we stop having this sort of leakages?
Yes, we can only talk about the courts if this turns out to be true. Because I know it is difficult for the judges to put out their judgment even before it is delivered. So if it is true, then the first point I will point my accusing finger is the staff. Because the judges don't work alone. They work with confidential secretaries, clerks here and there. So when you have this issue of judgments being leaked, then you point accusing fingers on those people. And that is not to say that it is impossible for the judges to be indicted. But what I would say is that it is time for the judges to ensure strictness, confidentiality of the entire process. Now we have even gone digital. Judges are now typing their judgments here and there. So it is for us to maintain confidentiality, ethics, continuous training and retraining for judicial officers, for judicial staff, for them to know the value of ethics, the value of confidentiality, of the value of public trust. Because when you have this, we have come to realize and accepted that judicialization of the electoral process has come to stay with us. So if it is part of our electoral process, then we should guard it jealously so that public trust in the judiciary will be maintained. And that goes to do with the judges, the judicial officers, and every person connected with litigation in terms of our electoral justice system.
What legal safeguards would you say exist to ensure that this isn't something that happens regularly? I'm not sure that judgment leaks are quite the order of the day here in Nigeria. So what legal safeguards would you say exist to ensure that this isn't something that is a regular occurrence?
Anyway, we have code of conduct for judicial officers. We have legal safeguards already in place. But what we can say is that there should be more scrutiny, more monitoring. The NJC should be alive to its responsibilities. The NBA can also step in to assist the NJC so that we can actually monitor this entire process, provide oversight of the entire process, so that those who are deployed to the tribunal should be persons of integrity. I'm not even talking about the judges now, but the support staff should be persons of unquestionable integrity. Because if this turns out to be true, then it spells doom for our judicial system. And that should not be allowed to be. So we will say that the code of conduct we have in place, the rules of professional ethics we have in place, every legal framework we already have in place should be strengthened. That is why we say law is dynamic. When we see lapses, we cover them up by amendment. So the legal framework, I'm not agitating or advocating for a new legal framework, but the codes, the ethical practices, the things we already have in place should be strengthened through proper monitoring and enforcement. And then by the time we put all these things together, we'll have our electoral justice system being impeccable.
Now, Dr. Oguchi, there's currently a bill in the National Assembly seeking to make the Court of Appeal, I believe, the last court for final adjudication when it comes to electoral matters. What do you make of this, and what impact will it have on our electoral system?
Okay, I've read about the bill myself, and I do not believe that that is a prudent step to take. Because if you look at the history of the Supreme Court being the final court in terms of those election petitions, you will see that we are going back to where we are coming from. We are trying to go back. When you make the Court of Appeal the final court, we are definitely going to have conflicting judgments on similar issues. And when you have that, it is inimical to our electoral system. When you have the opportunity of the Supreme Court having to sit over those appeals, we will have a unified judgment, a unified electoral judicial pronouncement system, where we will know that if this is the case, this is how the judgment will turn out to be. But when you make it, you make the Court of Appeal the final court, then you are going to have Abuja Division giving a judgment different from what Calabar, Benin, Makurdi will say. And that is not good. You take the Plateau example. The Court of Appeal sacked the legislators. The Supreme Court upheld the election of the governor. What sense do you make out of this? It tells you that if the National Assembly and State Assembly members had the opportunity of approaching the Supreme Court, the verdict would have been a different thing. So I will say that that bill that is seeking to make the Court of Appeal the final court in those election petitions is taking us back to where we are coming from. Because the Supreme Court, being the apex court in those appeals, has a history. We saw mischiefs. We saw the background of the Supreme Court being taken to be the final court. And we shouldn't go back to where we are coming from. We should make progress. We have additional justices of the Supreme Court now. So different panels of the Supreme Court can be hearing various appeals at the same time. If there's anything we should even do, if we see that the composition of the Supreme Court now is not enough, we can amend the Constitution to increase the number of justices of the Supreme Court instead of taking those appeals back to the Court of Appeal for final determination. I don't think that that would do us any good.
I think a final question would be, those who would advocate for real-time access to court documents. Is that a conversation we maybe should be visiting in this instance to forestall or to prevent stories like this from making front pages?
Are you referring to stories about the leaked judgment?
Yes.
Yes. Well, having real-time access to court documents does not include judgment. It should not include judgment. Judgment should be disclosed only at the point of delivery. So those who advocate for access, yes, access so that nothing is hidden, nothing is shrouded in secrecy. But when it comes to judgment of a court or tribunal, it is strictly confidential. If people have access to it ahead of time, there is likely to be breach of peace.
All right. Doctor.
Law and order will be at stake. So right. I don't believe that this should be what people should have access to ahead of time. But every other proceeding, every other court document, no problem.
But you agree that as soon as court judgments, maybe we should have real-time access to court judgments as soon as possible, especially the CTC. We saw that in Rivers State where it took a while, for the governor to get a copy of the CTC. But Dr. Samuel Guche, thank you for your time with us this morning. In a few minutes, maybe we'll find out what the position of the law is regarding the gubernatorial election in Edo State. Thank you for your time with us.
Thank you, Dr. Guche.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.
All
right.
Anyway, great conversation there. I'm sure we should be establishing connection again with our man, Joshua Marayi, to find out if
the court will sit?
Yes, the court would sit.
And also security updates. Maybe the gentlemen of the Nigerian police were just having their breakfast. It's about breakfast.
Yeah. I forgot.
Breakfast central time.
I also forgot. Yeah, they should be having their breakfast by now. You don't expect them to be there at 7.
They don't expect that it will be a widely contested judgment.
And look at the space.
They also, I like Olive's angle.
Very important.
We're all civilized people, but they expect everyone to take the judgment and be civil about it.
No need to fight. Exactly. I mean, everybody I saw there, they looked very responsible and clean. No talks there.
For a moment, I thought
it doesn't remind us of what had happened earlier on. When a certain faction had their own boys boxing people outside the ring, even though there was an imaginary ring, and they were telling people, and of course led by Kabaka and all that. We saw the fight, the beating, and everything, but it's not the same. Anyway, let's tell you about what took place yesterday, April 1st. Usually April 1st
April Fool's
happens
Day.
to be April Fool's Day.
Just before you go on, Joe, check your shirt. You have a stain. April Fool.
You're dry, Winga. You're very dry.
I got you.
Winga, that's one.
Our own April Fool runs for the whole month of April.
I think after we're done with this package, I'll ask you if any of you have either done April Fool and what to be the most dramatic April Fool you've done. And I remember last year on the show when I came up and I started the Which Way Nigeria by telling people how, you know, the price of petrol had come down to 185 and the dollar was now exchanging at 500 naira. And after that I said April Fool. We're like, Olive, how dare you? You were already starting to rejoice. But anyway, Nigerians joined the rest of the world on the 1st of April to commemorate April Fool's Day, a light-hearted tradition of playing harmless pranks on friends, family, and colleagues. In this special report, News Central's correspondent Austin Azu explores the ways Nigerians observe this day, the creativity and humor involved, and the importance of respecting boundaries.
Experts suggest that April Fool's Day received its name from the custom of playing practical jokes on people on the first day in April. In Nigeria, many people embraced the day with enthusiasm, using the opportunity to showcase their creativity and sense of humor. But how much do residents of Asaba, Delta State capital, know about April Fool's Day and how the game is being played?
I'm aware today in April Fool.
I was not aware of hardship of this country, but first day, all your mind and hustling, you know. How you go to survive? So our mind, you don't say that before. When April Fool don't reach like this, before that day, everybody don't they talk and they don't they prepare to do person April Fool. But now country change now. You wake up in the morning, you focus on your hustling. How you go to hustle? Don't be think all those things again.
Some respondents shared their April Fool's Day experiences.
In fact, I've not been pranked before, apart from the one they did me this morning where my BP nearly rise. They just called me that we had made a foundation inside Warri, Ijedo Assis, under the PA land. Say government don't come this morning. Say they don't carry a black they demolish the place. I say, that's going to happen. Well, they don't go on nothing. Why that can happen? I say, my brother, they don't call me. Why? I don't promote. My BP don't even go high. I say, make correct. They say, no, it's not April Fool. Now my man come down. For not even the for even rush me go to. I say, if not be God.
That one they go come and my mama say his sister they die. Me rock off village. Mama call the bath. All of us come gather all of us. Say make we go village. All for us, so they go for road. Now they call us say na April Fool. See that thing, it cause problem for my house.
While April Fool's Day is a time for humor and laughter, some respondents maintained that it's essential to remember to be respectful and consider others' feelings, especially considering the current economic realities in Nigeria.
Because one, me and you know that the country is not in a stable state. Everybody has BP in this country now. So there is some prank you will do that will lead someone to death, or they will lead that person to coma.
April Fool is not as usual. Because if you tell somebody April Fool now, the person may be annoyed and will take it to change it for you. At the end of the day, it becomes trouble. So I think we should just avoid it this time around.
Experts have said the pranks only run from morning to 12 noon on April Fool's Day and urged Nigerians to be mindful of their actions and ensure that their pranks do not cause unnecessary stress or anxiety. In Asaba for News Central, Austin Azu.
Well, so you heard Benga just pulled one on me, but you know what? It's
a
fine.
Successful one.
You know, a successful one. You tried.
Have you been able to pull anyone more successful than this?
When I was in secondary school, I broke up with my girlfriend. And the background had like little black and white, the paper, April Fool, April Fool. She didn't see it, she just saw the text. She believed. And it was a fresh relationship, very nice relationship. So what hurts.
And for real, you didn't come back together?
No, of course you came back.
Eventually.
Who can break up with me? Who can battle with them?
Please, let's focus on
I think I can't really remember if I've done any serious April Fool one, but I think it would be...
No,
I think one time telling my mom, but that one is my normal behavior. When I was school in Delta, telling my mom that I'm coming home. No, telling my mom I'm in school and then traveling from Delta to Lagos and just appearing at home, you know, just to surprise her. I think things like that. But as we wrap up this April Fool conversation, for those of you who are Christians and want to take April Fool seriously and do the ones that will give people high blood pressure, the Bible says in Proverbs 26:18-19 NIV, like a maniac shooting flaming arrows of death is one who deceives their neighbor and says, I was only joking.
So you know.
Just so you know. We'll
Case closed.
Yes, let's just leave it at that. Do with this information what
like
you
that,
know.
like that man said in the report. He said everybody hires everybody, not me.
Everybody, I don't have to.
Yeah. Maybe you have a high blood pressure. I don't know.
I don't
That's
have
what the man said in the report. That people should don't play rough.
Exactly.
I think beyond April Fool, even these pranksters that we're seeing on Instagram, I think we need to be more mindful. We can be light-hearted and funny,
yes,
but we have to be mindful.
But we should be more civil in doing that. We've seen cases where it's led to even arrests of the so-called pranksters and so on and so forth.
And just stop picking money on the street.
Yeah.
Because there's one where if you pick money, they'll just throw a snake, a toy snake.
Well, you can go to Yam and pick money. Let's head to Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory, where we have our correspondent Joshua Imarayi to bring us an update regarding the gubernatorial elections in Edo State. The tribunal will be giving judgments today. Joshua, what's the update? Is the court seating? Do we have any fresh update from our last conversation?
I can confirm to you that the court is yet to sit, but one thing I saw, I'm seeing a gradual influx of personnel, particularly party faithful. A few seconds ago, I saw the APC chairman of Edo State, the person of Jared Tenebe, walked into this same venue. But and the only thing we are seeing now is security persons attached to these personnel. That the only security personnel we are seeing currently on ground. No properly addressed outfit is here to safeguard lives and properties of these people who are awaiting the judgment. We are still awaiting the tribunal to commence ruling. I will keep you updated as regards that.
All right. Well, keep us updated, and that's exactly what we would be doing for you, especially to all our viewers. Thank you so much, Joshua. We just wanted to catch up with you and find out if the security operatives have arrived, and also not forgetting if judgment would commence anytime soon. Thank you so much for the updates. Thank you. And just in case you missed out as well on another story, we didn't bring that to you, but of course, talking about the NNPCL boss, Mele Kyari, who has been sacked by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and an appointment immediately took place. Ujulari was indeed appointed right away without waste of time. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu approved the sweeping reconstitution of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited Board, removing the chairman, also Chief Pius Akinyelure, and the group chief executive officer, who happens to be the man on the screen there, Malam Mele Kyari. The decision was announced early Wednesday in a statement signed by Special Advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, Bayo Ononuga. Now, according to him, the president also removed all of the board members appointed with Akinyelure and Kyari in November 2023 onto this appointment. Now, Ujulari, an engineer and expert in petroleum process and production engineering, was managing director of Shell Nigeria Exploration and Production Company from 2015 to 2021. He would indeed take that position. The new 11-man board has engineer Bashir Bayo Ujulari as a group CEO and Amadou Musa Kida. Sounds very familiar, right? Amadou Musa Kida as non-executive chairman. You also have Adedapo Shegun and the likes. But we'll tell you some more. I would also like to prompt and preempt you to get ready when you join the team of Business Edge at 11 a.m. later today, West African time. They will be breaking down what really took place and the impact of this swift change. Do join the business team here on News Central at 11 a.m. Don't forget, all right? Let's tell you quickly again about what's happening in Lagos, most importantly.
I mean, just to quickly react to the story, we've seen, Bayo Ononuga posted about it. I was just looking at his post on X and looking at some of the reactions. The first reacting tweet was saying, the Yorubanization of the country is now gone full cycle. Congratulations, Mr. President.
I remember doing with Nigeria this issue and of appointment of party faithfuls. There's a reason why we have federal character, even in cases where the Constitution doesn't cover federal character. just read the pulse of a nation. They're qualified Nigerians from all ethnic groups. You don't have to always appoint heads of agencies and government personnel from a particular section of the country. The president should be aware of this. And it didn't happen. It didn't start from this government, but it's no excuse. We've seen this trend, especially under the government of the former president, Muhammadu Buhari. A lot of his appointed were lopsided, and it makes other ethnic nationalities feel, are we still part of this federation? And don't we have qualified men or women from our parts? There's no how you can spin it. It's very obvious. And maybe someday on the drawing board we'll do a scientific breakdown, a data-driven, factual breakdown of the appointments in the last couple of months,
right,
in comparison with others.
So I also think that a number of questions easily come to mind, which would be this appointment, this reshuffling that's happening within the NNPC board. Is it for the best interest of the NNPC? Are we going to be able to guarantee better efficiency of the NNPC? Areas like the unbundling of the NNPC, you know, that have been like subject to conversation in the past how many years, are these issues that we're still going to have to battle with? Also, there are very strong allegations against Mele Kyari, you know, and how a number of the, for example, the refineries were being handled, how a number of them did not meet the performance, you know, even when they would say they're already producing, but the realization later will be that there's allegations of them blending and mixing. So it's just the number of allegations about how the NNPC has been wrongfully handled, how it's been an institution that has been used to, in some measure, not measure up to the expectations of Nigerians. Oil is a very important part of our... It's a cash cow. Exactly, it's our cash cow. So we can't be playing favoritism or playing the lifeblood of the economy. So
you're right.
Is there a guarantee that we're going to see a different and a better...
Ordinary Nigerians on the street, they don't care about the change in personnel. They just want a more effective and efficient NNPC, and also a reduction in the price of petrol.
I mean, yes, this cash for crude deal with Dangote, what is going to be the next step? Because now, there are projections for fuel to go back to 1,000 naira and even more.
God forbid.
And then there are projections that it's going to come down 750.
Oh yes, I saw that by the end of the year.
By the end of the year.
So
which do you believe?
I believe that's...
I can't believe that
because you choose two truths can coexist.
Yes. No, I'm saying I can't believe it that we'll be rejoicing for our fuel to get to 750.
When initially we're like, yes,
they will tell you, don't you know where we are coming from 1,000...
you know what? Let's also quickly talk about what's happening in Lagos. I also wanted to mention this earlier on. Well, a bridge is undergoing reconstruction, and a lot of persons who live in Lagos are not happy with the way in which it was done. But not just that, in case you do not know, Lagos is a metropolitan city where you'd find a lot of persons waking up very early in the morning, early hours, just to beat one thing. And that thing starts with T and ends with a K, traffic. And Lagos is also known to be very, very porous in terms of not having a lot of transport roads for people to actually, you know, move or go by and so on and so on. But our man is live now. He will be telling us what's going on. We do have from the Independence Bridge, which is undergoing reconstruction right now. We want to see what impact it has on Nigerians and Lagosians, I beg your pardon, about a better way to Victoria Island. This was the directive given by the Lagos State government. They said they're going to divert a lot of movements. This morning, we didn't follow the normal route we do to come to the office. We decided to follow a different route, this time possibly pass through Falomore Bridge. So that's exactly what you see on the screen there. You're being told to use Ozumban Badiwe Avenue, inbound Ake Adishola Street, proceed to Falomore Roundabout, which is what we use, to connect to Obafemi Awolowo Road to access Ring Road, and then of course you could also access the 3rd Mainland Bridge. But let's find out if Israel Eferobo is there live to give us an update on how the construction is ongoing, most importantly.
My biggest question is, how long is this disruption going to take? And we all have this attitude in Nigeria. You know, everything the government says, we have to take it at face value. Just accept it. They have your best interest, or whether it's going to disrupt businesses, if it's going to cause a lot of inconveniences for you. No, if engineers, and that's why, I mean, I love, well, not to, I don't even want to put them on the spotlight, but our MD and chief editor at News Central, if you tell him something can't be done, he will tell you it can be done. Let's try it. Just do it. So I wish those government officials had this type of mentality. How do you close? Lagos is a commercial nerve center of the country.
But it's a mega
city.
It's just for
over 20. Do you know the economic value of disruption? Time and money. You know that song. You grew up around the same time I grew up. So many years.
We both did.
Yeah.
So I don't know which song people are speaking about.
Yeah.
So, oh, you Gen Z.
Yes, I am. Gen Alpha.
So there's a value to time. Yeah. There's an economic value to time. If your engineers can stop this disruption in 2 weeks, if it means you have to work overnight, then do it for the sake of convenience. Because people, have you sat in traffic for hours?
I agree with you, Benga.
If there's a medical emergency, it's just going to make people, they're losing sleep. If you used to wake up at 4, you wake up at 3. Life shouldn't be that.
And it's the same thing that happens whenever they're doing the whole Third Mainland Bridge renovations as well. I think we should get to the point where, whilst we are prioritizing the health and safety of Nigerians, we are also looking at the fact that health and safety isn't just about the roads and the bridges, which are very important, but also the longevity of a person's life and the quality of your life is largely dependent on how much cortisol. Stress is cortisol. Sitting in traffic causes stress. So we can try to do more in limited time. I would hope that that will be something to explore in the nearest future. Let's share with you what's still to come this morning as we enter into the final leg of Breakfast Central. Still to come on Breakfast Central, stakeholders seek end to Electoral Act violations. We review the newspaper front pages, opening the phone lines and having our guest analysts join us as well. And we bring you our monologue, Which Way Nigeria?
Hello, welcome to Breakfast Headlines. I am Benga Aborowa. We begin the news in West Africa, where Nigeria's President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has approved the reconstitution of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation Limited Board, removing the chairman, Chief Pius Akinyelure, and the group chief executive officer, Malam Mele Kyari. In a statement by the special advisor to the president on information and strategy, Bayo Nanuga, in the early hours of Wednesday, President Tinubu removed all other board members appointed with Akinyelure and Kyari in November 2023. The new 11-man board has Engineer Bashir Ojulari as the group CEO and Amadou Kida as non-executive chairman. Parties in the Edo State governorship election petitions case are keeping their fingers crossed as the tribunal is set to deliver its judgment today. In the petition filed by the People's Democratic Party and its candidate Asue Ighodalo, the tribunal is set to rule on 3 petitions filed by the People's Democratic Party challenging the declaration of Monday Okpebholo as of the All Progressive Congress as the winner of the election by the Independent National Electoral Commission. Okpebholo has secured a total of 291,000 votes against that of his rival of PDP with 50,000 votes. The petitioners are contesting the validity of the election results declared, citing alleged non-compliance with the provisions of the 2022 Electoral Act as amended. Now, away from that, Senator representing Kogi Central, Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, on Tuesday returned to her hometown in Ekehi local government area of Kogi State to a massive crowd of supporters, despite a curfew and ban on political rallies imposed by the state government. She accused Senate President Godswill Akpabio of orchestrating a suspension to silence her and vowed to resist any plans to recall her from the National Assembly. Senator Akpoti-Uduaghan arrived in Kogi State aboard a helicopter and was welcomed by thousands of supporters at Ihima. Her return comes weeks after the Senate suspended her following a petition she filed alleging harassment by the Senate President. Angry residents of Otopo in Benue State on Tuesday took to the streets to protest the escalating violence in the area, including a surge in killings and kidnappings. The demonstrators blocked key roads, demanding immediate action from the government and security agencies to tackle the growing insecurity that has plagued the community. The protests come after a series of deadly attacks that have left the community in shock and fear. The demonstrators, who blocked major roads in the town, are calling for urgent intervention from both the government and security agencies. Many residents have been forced to flee their homes, while those who remain alive live in constant fear for their safety. And still in West Africa, the ruling junta in Niger has announced the release of around 50 detainees, including top officials from the government it overthrew in July 2023. The move follows recommendations from a national conference held in February. Among those freed are former Oil Minister Mahamane Sani Isufu, son of ex-President Mamadou Isufu, ex-Defense Minister Kala Muktari, former Finance Minister Ahmad Jidud, and former Energy Minister Ibrahim Yakubu. Others released include Famukoye Gado, president of the former ruling PNDS party, journalist Usman Tudu, and Alat Mogasika, former ambassador to Nigeria. The detainees had been arrested following the coup that had brought General Abdurrahman Tiani to power. They were accused of conspiring to undermine the security and authority of the state. However, ousted President Mohamed Bazoum remains in detention despite international calls for his release. Guinea's ruling junta has announced that a referendum and a new constitution will be held on September the 21st in a major step towards a return to democratic rule. The announcement was made in a presidential decree read on state television on Tuesday. The junta, which seized power in 2021 and suspended the previous constitution, had initially delayed its transition timeline. However, junta leader General Mamadi Doumbouya reaffirmed in his New Year address that 2025 would be a crucial electoral year for the country. Now, in Southern Africa, thousands of people took to the streets across South Africa on Tuesday, rallying in support of an 8-year-old who was allegedly raped at a school last year and demanding justice for the child. In Cape Town, more than 2,000 people marched through the city centre, with additional protests taking place in Pretoria. The girl, who was 7 at the time of the incident in October, only gained widespread attention about 2 weeks ago after her mother shared the harrowing details on a podcast in local media, urging authorities to take action. So far, no arrests have been made in connection with the case. However, Police Minister Senzo Mchunu confirmed last week that the investigation is being treated with utmost seriousness and priority. Authorities have identified 3 suspects, including staff members from the school in the Eastern Cape province.
Always fail us. I have no trust in our justice system, and something needs to be done, and someone needs to take accountability of what's happening with our children out there.
Why do we have to go to these extreme measures? It's crazy. To me, it's absurd, it's insane. We don't have to cry this loud to be heard.
On behalf of all the mothers and the sisters and the aunts and every parent in this country, to come and cry with everybody on the way this case was handled, and also on the way our children are not safe in this country.
In South Africa, the African National Congress has issued a stark warning, saying the collapse of budget talks could lead to a reshuffling of the government of national unity. Fikile Mbalula, the ANC's General Secretary, addressed the media earlier today, stressing the party's commitment to the unity government, but also acknowledged that internal squabbles may force a reassessment of the government structure. Mbalula emphasized the ANC's dedication to maintaining the government of national unity. However, he cautioned that if political point scoring continues, they may be forced to reconsider its configuration. The The ANC has been in discussions with a range of political parties, both within and outside the unity government, in an attempt to secure backing for the budget. That's all on the news at this hour. Breakfast Central continues shortly. I am Benga Aborowa.
Election stakeholders in Nigeria have called for enforcement of laws on campaign financing in the country. They say this remains a major challenge in the nation's democratic process, following a recent report which revealed that major political parties violated provisions of the Electoral Act during the 2024 governorship elections in Edo and Ondo State. Our correspondent, Indog Joseph, brings more in this report.
Running for political office in Nigeria has become increasingly expensive, with nomination forms, campaign adverts, rallies, and staff salaries costing millions or even billions of naira. However, there are legal limits to how much a candidate can spend in an election cycle. Section 88, subsection 2 to 7 of the amended Electoral Act of 2022 set spending caps for candidates to the level playing field and prevent election from becoming a context of wealth.
I remember following the campaign expenses of the last presidential election in the US. Even about a few months to the elections, candidates are already spending, each of the candidates spent, the leading candidate spent over $3 billion, right? Even before the elections. So it shows you that money is very important in any elections. But giving money free rein in elections and political process sometimes can end up in anarchy.
Despite the 5 billion naira spending cap for presidential candidates and 1 billion naira for governorship candidates, a new survey by Kimpak's Development Initiative on the Ondo and Edo State governorship elections shows that individual candidates far exceeded these limits.
If you look at the known income for both the party and even the candidate, it's not even in billions. I think the highest, for instance, the known income for APC in Edo is barely 800 million. Right, for that of Labour Party is about 800 or about 1.04 billion. That's for Labour Party, and I'm talking about PDP. PDP's known income is about 600 million.
So far, no sanctions have been imposed on violators since the Electoral Act was amended in 2022. The Inter-Party Advisory Council of Nigeria and election observers warn that continued disregard for spending limits threatens democracy and are calling for stricter enforcement of election finance laws.
Let us try as much as possible to see how we can adhere to this law, and anybody who violates this law should be heavily penalized. I think that is the only way we can, because we need to sanitize our electoral process.
I do believe that we have an opportunity now with the current electoral reform process. For one, a political party regulations commission to be established.
with stakeholders raising fresh concerns about money influencing the democratic process. Experts expressed concerns, saying extravagant spending during elections is making the field more uneven. In Abuja for News Central, Idong Joseph.
Welcome back. Let's go straight to the front pages of the newspapers. That's what we're going to do next, as we invite you to join us by calling the number on the screen, and we can get your reaction as well to some of the biggest stories making the rounds, especially on the front pages. I'm going to start off first by calling on the Daily Trust. Let's look at the Daily Trust very quickly and see what the Daily Trust has on the front page there this morning. It's got to do with the borrowings. We're back at it again. Federal government borrows 13.21 trillion naira from World Bank in 20 months. 13.21 trillion naira. You could see fresh $1.1 billion loan approved in 1 week as debt profile hits 142 trillion naira. That's our latest debt profile. Multilateral loans vulnerable to corruption, according to experts. Experts are saying these loans, are vulnerable to corruption and so on. Oromi killings, DSS has arrested 2 principal suspects, according to Edo State government. Kano governor reiterates call for justice. Victims' rights to freedom of movement violated, according to NHRC. Natasha defies ban, lands at rally ground in Chopper. Edo governorship, APC, PDP confident of victory as tribunal rules today. And man absconds as wife gives birth to triplets. We hope this wouldn't be your lot.
Children are a blessing, and many people will celebrate that. But I have not read that story, but I can infer the reason why it did so. Because of the prevalent economic... Do you know how much diapers are?
So who did he leave those 3 children for the woman to take care of? Because who impregnated her to have multiple beds?
Very important question. Maybe Sheffield
no comment here.
As a political analyst, you should have the answer.
And I think we are 3 men on this call.
Exactly.
What's the question again?
Why would he abandon her? Benga is giving excuses that he understands. I say, who impregnated her?
To now meet with triplets. She released the 3 eggs to now meet with the multiple stuff. She released the 3 eggs.
Yeah.
Why can't she release one?
It's a joint responsibility.
Please don't Natasha this. It's going to be hard.
She released the 3
You know what? Let's not go into this.
Yeah.
Let's not go into talking about deadbeat people. Let's face newspaper. Next newspaper this morning is the Nigerian Tribune. On the front page of the Nigerian Tribune, Natasha defies all odds. Arrives Kogi in helicopter. How Nigeria can maximize $500 million World Bank loan, according to LCCI. Immigration arrests 51 illegal migrants in Nasarawa. Ponzi operators risk 10-year jail term, 20 million naira fine, according to SEC. CBN reports $23 billion net foreign exchange reserves, highest in over 3 years. NHRC reps Minority Caucus condemned killing of 16 hunters in Edo. Ekiti Airport targets 24-hour flight operation, says Oyebanji. Insists Ekiti economy has improved under his watch. He feels like someone writing exam and scoring himself
setting the question
10 over 10.
Writing,
you set the question, you write it.
I did well.
And then you score yourself 10 over 10. It is not you.
But most of the time we do that when you finish exam. It's the examiner that will do justice to you. Say, what happened?
And so the examiner in this case are the people of citizens of
the people.
State.
So they will definitely write the result in no distance.
We are waiting for the
There's also another angle in that story. The viability of airports for this small states. And I don't mean any disrespect. A lot of these governors go about, commissioning airport projects. FAN has complained that it's stretching their resources. Some of them don't even have a single flight in a whole month. Why do these governors do it? What's the big deal about having an airport as a sign of development? The classrooms, you still have students sitting on the bare floor. They're not up to standard, but they always seem to have a love relationship with airports.
Yeah, I think I have the same. I've reacted to this on several fora to look at so many states that we consider really it's not that you have the commercial activity that you intend to carry out in that particular state. But it's to speak more to the holistic nature of some of these governors. They tend to satisfy themselves. You can imagine 1/10 of those funds used in building an airport can be used to develop a state like Ekiti that we know them for education. You know, you move from each house to another and you are seeing a professor, doggedness in reading, and you are not even prioritize education in that state, but you are giving room for, I don't know, if you say it's actually growing, well, like I said, it's in the hands of the people in that particular state, but I think there are more things to be considered as priority as against this airport. I don't know how many people will want to fly to Ekiti.
You're talking about how many people? He's saying because of the volume, they even want 24 hours operation.
Back to back. You asked 24 hours flight in Ekiti. You are not talking of Port Harcourt, where everybody is running to. You are not talking of Kano. You are not talking of Abuja. Even Abuja, they are not talking of 24 hours. And we are talking of that. Is to tell you the level at which some of these leaders come to paper to say something, to justify their wrongdoing. I feel somebody should be thinking of how do we have technology driven our education sector, knowing fully well that Ekiti is known for that. And we can have more people going to, having more university where they will tell you that if you go to any university in Ekiti, you'll be different from every other state because Ekiti take pride
Ekiti
in
also
education.
has tourism potentials. Many people are lining up to go to Ikogosi, Warm Springs, the 10th wonder of the world.
Well, those are not a priority. They will tell you that they are working on it, but I've not seen the viability of this airport, and that's what we see most of the time. You will see it work after its administration. It will die a natural death that any other person will not sustain it, and you see taxpayers' money just going into
another white elephant project.
Okay, I think that's that for that. We'll come back to that story. I wanted us to quickly move to the Daily Independent and see if we can run through some of the headlines on the front page. Telcos target satellite services to counter Starlink dominance. Ponzi operators risk 10-year jail term, 20 million naira fine according to SEC. Edo killings address rising wave of violence, insecurity. So, Tinubu, we're targeting 24-hour flight operation in Ekiti Airport. Oyebanji says, oh, why are you laughing now? PDP plotting to instigate crisis in Edo, APC alleges. Federal government threatens to implement drill or drop provision on IOCs. They've said, if you don't drill, we are going to collect your oil wells from you. They've urged IOCs to ramp up investments as well. Adopt Wise report, you won't lose 2027 poll, Okechukwu tells Tinubu. Edo gubernatorial elections. Confusion as leaked copies of tribunal judgments surface online. I think that's a good place for us to start, with the Daily Independent. When you saw I don't know if you've seen the copy of what was purported to be a leaked judgment of
the future.
Yes. So the judgment is currently happening now in Abuja. Should be happening. We connected with our correspondent Joshua Imai, who said to us that people are waiting. The party faithfuls are in court and they're waiting for judgment to start. So I don't know if you saw what was that document, even though we had a guest earlier that said it wasn't signed, so you can't guarantee the validity of that.
Yeah, well, I didn't see that copy, but one thing I always speak to is that a lot of government officials never have this confidentiality that we are known for. And everybody signed that document. And the reason why this has been on the increasing path is because there is no punishment for even those that has happened in time past. A lot of people will go ahead and do a lot of things without having any punishment on their part. I will wait. You might have that particular one in circulation. It might be a particular one that is not going to be used. Let's wait for the judgment. If it is the same thing, then we should hold those people who are actually working at the corridor of that place. But I will tell you, they will raise it and it will die naturally because they might actually be working for
we have a caller. George is calling. Good morning, George. Thanks for calling. Please go ahead with your comment.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, thank you very much. So, it's been a very eventful week in the country. Numerous deadlines. By the way, great job that you're doing on set.
Thank you.
I wanted to speak to the Ekiti commentary made by your analyst there, and I pretty much want to agree with him. You know, the bulk of the issues we have in this country, for me, is more structural, it's more systemic. You know, the degree of chaos in the way we administer governance in this country is alarming. For example, how do you assess performance, for example? How? What are the benchmarks? What are your KPI? What development plan does the government have that even the legislative arm has debated on and approved and is using as a basis for assessing performance? Now, that is on one side. Then I saw the other headline, I'll be very quickly, on the borrowing, for example. The debt stock of the country is in excess of 50% of GDP. It is not sustainable. Where are we going in this nation? I mean, how do we account to the generations yet unborn? So these, for me, are just some of the issues that are very worse. Every other thing is symptomatic. There is a root cause that we are not dealing with. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, John, for calling.
I want to follow up on what John mentioned about the debt stock. And the headline he's talking about is from the Daily Trust. Federal government borrows 13.21 trillion from World Bank in 20 months. One of the writers says multilateral loans vulnerable to corruption, says experts. There's a saying that goes, he who goes a borrowing goes a sorrowing. How sustainable are these loans? Are we using it for Lagos, Calabar, superhighway? What can we see? Are we borrowing to pay salaries? What's the plan to repay these loans? And what impacts does it have on ordinary Nigerians? Is there also transparency in these loans and its implementation?
Yeah, well, if you ask me, all this question border around about what has happened in time past. How did we get to this issue of 130-something trillion debts? And what is the plan? The last report I heard about this administration is to say we've been able to manage our debt to revenue to reduce it from the 90-something we met it to about 60-something or 50-something to give allowance for all the things. And here we are, you know, given a projection to say in 20 months, we will be borrowing this certain amount. And the question I asked myself, all the leakages we claim we are blocking, all the policy, the fiscal policy that tells towards revenue generation, have we already projected that in 20 months to come, we are not going anywhere? And that's why we are having this projection of borrowing. We are not even talking of the repayment. And I've asked myself the question, if you look at the financial institution, before they borrow a businessman, you know, funds, they try to look at your antecedent. To me, if these World Bank people are still, you know, having that intention of borrowing us so much like this, is to tell us that we have a lot of potential we are not tapping into locally. And it's worrisome for me as an individual, because I know where the debt profile was while we were young. I know where it is. At a time, we were told during the Obasanjo regime that with the influence of Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, we had that debt forgiveness before Jonathan came on board.
So we started from a clean slate.
So within that period and now, talking of less than 20 years, we've accumulated this fund. And how impactful are some of these borrowing, you know, on the, is part of what we're saying on the part of what is happening in Ekiti. Are we doing projects that are impacting on common man? They must have borrowed money for the development of that airport.
And this is just World Bank. They're China loans that we're not talking about. This is just from the World Bank.
So you ask yourself, if some of these borrowing are for the development of the average citizen, we will be seeing the impact.
No hospitals?
No hospital is functioning.
Education.
Our education sector is nowhere to be found. We pay so much in terms of power sector, in terms of telecoms. A lot of people will tell you, in fact, these days I buy data and I ask myself, what did I use it for?
Where did it go to?
What did I use it for? Infrastructures are not there. So what is this?
Do you know how much a return trip to Abuja cost? How many people
One-way ticket is, I
yeah.
saw a one-way ticket recently, which was 450,000 naira.
A return ticket is between 300 to 320.
No, actually, I did see one recent. I don't know if it's because it was
yeah.
maybe because
for the festive season. But the last trip I had was about a return trip was about 290, of which I did about 3 weeks before my trip. So you can imagine if I'm to leave tomorrow and I have to book, you'll be talking about 3. This
used to be 10,000.
We used to go return ticket 28,000.
15, even 15,000.
When you say years ago, you would think, I mean, people are listening to this conversation. You would think we're talking about 30 years ago.
I'm talking 2015, I used 150,000, 2015 or 2016, I used 150K to go to Dubai. So now we're having this, you know.
To fly to US, then you less than $500,000 will take you to US on a return.
All right, we'll come back to talk about this unfortunate reality, but we do have Yusuf calling from Ikorodu. Good morning, Yusuf. Thanks for calling.
Good morning. Good morning.
Please go ahead.
How are everybody there? Quickly on Natasha's issue.
All right.
Let me break the ship on Natasha's issue. The way you media are taking this matter is like you people are taking side on it. Because let's look at our issue. In this country of ours, there is an issue between two people. Take for instance, someone came to a place, that person gets slapped by somebody in that place for one reason or the other, and the person that slapped this person is the first to make reports. What the people that they went to report to will say is, why did you go there to disturb them? And not, why did they slap me? Because what they brought is the slapping in going there to disturb. What I'm trying to point out in my story is, the first thing we have Nigerians know about Natasha's issue is she disturbed the proceedings of the House of Senate because her seat was changed. But now you press are bringing sexual harassment affront the disturbance of Senate, which is not so, making it look as if, let me ask this question, had it been they didn't change her seat in the Senate, will she be saying anything about sexual harassment or something? She won't be saying anything.
All right.
Anyway, Mr. Yusuf, I don't think, first of all...
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you. I think we've gotten your message, but thank you so much.
Thank you for calling.
I also recall that, I mean, Mr. Yusuf said we've taken sides. Well, it's not taking sides. I think I'd like to clear that. We're not taking sides. It's a clear story that's out there in the news. A fortnight or 24 hours before she had made a statement that she was going to her home, there were indications that all of a sudden, no movement, you can't gather, you can't do that. I mean, what would you call that? We're journalists. Our job is to ensure that we balance both sides. So we reported that story, and then we also reported the story of how Natasha got there. And if you just oppose both stories, you would end up finding out that, whether you like it or not, as a human being, first of all, we're humans. You must agree that nobody would stop you, Mr. Yusuf, calling from entering your house. Would anybody stop you from going to your home? So
maybe we should get Mr. Kwade's thoughts regarding Senator Natasha's story.
Yeah, I think the dynamics at which that game is played, personally, I don't think we should go that route. First and foremost, it was being said that our coming will create unrest in the states. And I asked, what unrest? Definitely there are two sides of the coin. And I can tell you for free that whatever you want to say, the people from our constituency will still stay with us, irrespective of how you want to influence whatever decision. They might have certain section of the same set of people from the constituency that feels that, okay, well, we are being, most of the time, they are being induced to work against their own, because there is no how myself and Oli will be brother and sister. And I feel they will tell you that blood is thicker than water. We might not be related by blood, but the fact that we have common ground, we speak almost the same language, we grew up together. And this was a woman that, against all odds, remember how she actually won this particular election, going to court with some fact to say these are actually the right results that we had there. You cannot see his people coming to fight her. And that alluded to the fact that a lot of them trooped out against the instruction of the governor that there will be curfew. To say, fine, there can be curfew in the state, but for us, we want to welcome our own. I feel we should take time to be sensitive. Most of the time, these security reports that we are majorly being influenced by wrongdoing as against the person you are fighting with. And for me, I always say, if somebody is, even if you recall her today, and you say she's no longer in the Senate, she still has the people that will always be there to protect their interest. Because you are going to get someone from that same constituency. And the person will just have to they will have to tell you that you need to be careful. The same way they actually punished your predecessor is the same way you have it. So when politicians are doing, it's part of politicking, which politician will say that's how they play their game. But the citizen should be sensitive enough to know when they are being used, and when they induce you to get their result, they will use you, dump you, and go to another level when they need other people.
All right. Still reacting to the newspaper front pages, we have Catherine. Good morning, Catherine. Thanks for calling. Please go ahead with your comment.
Good morning. I want to talk about the Natasha issue. It's really taking a lot of things out of this country. We have better things to do in our country than to talk about one person that will hold us spell. Can she just do what she's doing and let everybody ignore them? And let us just continue with what we are doing. We have a lot of issues of that. People are hungry, people need jobs and all that. And yes, we are busy talking about one woman who is flying up, who is coming down, who is talking, who is shouting, who is doing this. If she needs attention, she should go ahead and do attention. Hollywood is there, Hollywood is there. She should give her attention and leave us alone. Let us continue what we are doing. What is just this big deal about Natasha and all that? Is she the only lady in this country? I'm sick and tired of hearing from them every day. We have things to do. Please, this is disturbing us. Our security is being disturbed. Can somebody tell these people, please stop? Even use the press people, stop. The more you give her attention, the more she goes up bringing us new things. She went into the river, she came to this one. What's all this for? Have we come to a country where we are coming? Please, stop giving her attention. If she can do a drama in Kogi, she can do a drama in everywhere, but give us attention. Nigerians, we need attention. Our issues are bigger than this. Please.
Thank you very much, Catherine.
Thank you very much, Catherine.
Thank you. Olive, there goes your quote again, your famous quote. Two or more things can exist at the same time.
Exactly. Two truths can coexist. Yeah. Whilst it is true that we have a lot of pressing issues in Nigeria, and I can completely understand where you're coming from, but just to lay a foundation to why it is an issue, it's because the quality of our governance is largely dependent on the people in office, the people chosen to represent us, and the manner in which they are able to go about the affairs in the Red Chamber. And if we can't guarantee equity and fairness in the Red Chamber, then what really is the hope of the common man? I think that's maybe the grouse of the people who are pushing for Natasha or against Natasha. I don't think it's necessarily because they are looking for attention.
You said Natasha is disturbing us.
I was about to ask her, the ways in which she meant that.
Yeah, no, well, I think our perspective is quite simple, that there are other pressing issues. That,
and I agree.
Talked about our education, talked about the health sector, the power sector.
Even the
we have shifted based on this
insecurity,
I'll go back to the Uromi killings, because when we talked about the Uromi killings, this is the exact excuse when people said, if you're saying that these hunters were killed and that these people are not hunters, they were headsmen, and the Edo people, the Uromi people are complaining about how they're being plagued by Fulani headsmen, or headsmen, I'd rather use that. And then these other people are saying, no, that's just an excuse. So my position was two truths can coexist. It can be true that, yes, they're being disturbed by headsmen, but it can also be true that there was a mob attack and that the people who were involved in this should be made to face the law. So two truths can coexist. We have challenges in Nigeria, and Natasha has a right. She's a Nigerian citizen, and she has Nigerian citizens that elected her to represent them. Do we have another call? Okay, no, we're not taking another call. All right, we have a few more minutes to go. Final story. Let's look quickly at the front page of the Nation newspaper. 5 major banks declare 4.56 trillion naira full-year profits. And we are saying that Nigeria has problems.
My money is inside that money.
I was saying Nigeria has problems.
What is the impact on the economy? From the statement that they are supposed to produce, certain amount is set aside for SMEs. How many of the SMEs are assessing it?
Nothing.
Good point.
Anyway.
I stand to be corrected, but I would say very, very small percentage.
Even the percentage that you're talking about, I have to speak of their relationship with the people within. Because if you are declaring this, if you are declaring this much, we should feel the impact on SMEs, on business growth. But we are not saying that coming up. Having access to finance, the interest rate is let's go to that.
Do you think banking is just about keeping money and SMS charges?
I mean, if you look at the intro to that story, it says the Nigerian banking industry appeared resilient amid the changing macroeconomic landscape and ongoing banking recapitalization. You're seeing the riders to the story. Net gains after tax grew by 66.2%. Assets of top financial institutions hit 100 trillion naira. Make all of us feel this money, make it touch everybody. Philip Tribal advocates active roles for deputy governors.
Great mind.
Very, very great mind indeed. Two more Uromi killing suspects arrested. Kano okays Edo's moves. Tribunal rules today in Igodalo versus Okpewolu petition. And the final story, Kogi government seeks security agencies. Aleshinloye Market, Makinde halts planned demolition. Let's get your final thoughts on. I think the only story we haven't touched so far would be Edo government and how the governor has gone to Kano State to commiserate with the unfortunate, the deceased, unfortunate families of the deceased. Some criticized the governor and they said, you shouldn't have gone there. What about the other people that they've killed in the other parts of the country? Have their own governors come to commiserate, to commiserate with the families of the deceased? What's your thought on that?
Well, you always have these two sides of the coin. When you take a decision, so we say why. So we say why you don't really have the feeling of the people at heart. I always tell everyone, follow your conscience. You might know the reason. You might have the instinct of why you're actually doing that because they are your citizens. But the question there is we should look for a way to take care of this high level of insecurity and the killing that we are having every day. If you're looking at those people in the north being killed, we should look at the way we can diffuse this state of origin and see ourselves as one nation where we can interrelate without having any conflict to say, this is my territory, that is your territory. Let's all understand that whether you like it or not, the oil from the south is actually being benefited by everyone. The gold you get from the southwest, the one you get from Zamfara, the government have access to some of these things and they are used for the loss of everyone in the state. And that's why I would say government must look for a way in which we'll preach this unity among ourselves, the way our forefathers did, not this division. Majority of the division that we are faced with are actually being, being propelled by some of the politicians when they are not actually in the good books of what they feel that they should be high up there. They create sin, and that gives them the unnecessary relevance, and it's at the detriment of the people they claim they want to lead. I always leave people to say, when a politician comes to you to do anything, ask them to put their own family at the forefront. Then you follow them. So when there is anything, they bear the brunt, not you. Not you sacrificing for them because it's always used and done. They will use you today and give you 100,000. Tomorrow when you are not there, they will use another person. We must give ourselves that brain.
Like you said, divide and conquer is such a strong tool of manipulation that public office holders will always use. At the end of the day, I hope that citizens will have more sense and do better. Sheson Kwade, thank you for joining us. Thank you for your time this morning.
A great time to be with you this midweek.
All right, a great time for us also to get to Which Way Nigeria, talking about, Sheson has set the stage for the introduction of Which Way Nigeria, so let's stick around for that now.
Let's talk about the people who risk their lives every single day so we can leave ours in peace. Our soldiers. The men and women who wake up to the sound of gunfire, not alarm clocks, who sleep in trenches, not warm beds, who fight for a country that, let's be honest, doesn't fight for them. And what does Nigeria give them in return? A feeding allowance of just 3,000 naira a day. Yes, you heard that right, 3,000. And to make matters worse, it was only recently increased from a measly 1,500 naira. And they call it progress. Progress? Have you been to the market lately? Have you seen what 3,000 naira can buy in today's Nigeria? And these are soldiers, not civilians. Soldiers whose very survival depends on strength, endurance, and proper nutrition. And we're telling them to defend our nation on what? Gari and granite? Noodles without eggs? It's insulting. How do you expect a man to carry 30 kg of gear, patrol hostile territories, dodge bullets, and still have the strength to fight when the country can't even feed him properly? You can't send hungry soldiers to war and expect a victory. That's suicide. Let's go beyond the food. What does this say about how we value our military? Every year we celebrate them on Armed Forces Remembrance Day. We post their pictures, call them heroes. But what does that even mean if we're not giving them the basics, the very things they need to stay alive? Meanwhile, politicians are feasting on million-naira banquet tables, gulping champagne, flying in private jets. But the man standing in the sun and the rain, fighting terrorists, protecting our borders, is rationing his food like he's in a refugee camp. Do you see the problem? So today, I'm not just here to celebrate our troops. I'm here to demand better for them. 3,000 naira a day is a slap in the face. It's disrespectful. Wars aren't won by weapons alone, but the men and women behind them. If we don't care about those who protect us, we risk a future where no one is willing or able to answer the call of duty. Good morning, Nigerians.
Wonderful. Great job. I have a question, though.
Yes.
When you talked about answering Call of Duty, which of the Call of Duty did you mean? Did you mean Call of Duty game or Call of Duty Arise or Compassion?
I mean, they have the most difficult job in the country for you to voluntarily sign up to die and pay the ultimate price. I was a member of the 43rd course of the Nigerian Military School, Zaria. I spent 2 years in the Nigerian Military School, Zaria, NMS 93, but I had to run away. So I have classmates.
You ran away for your life.
I have classmates that have died fighting insurgents. And the good thing is, our association puts money together. We still support some of their family members and all of that. So I know the sacrifice they're going through.
I don't think
3,000 naira a day can't do much. It can't do. I mean, even just
I don't think that we're doing enough, to be honest. Yeah. January 15th, we'll do Armed Forces Remembrance Day, but there's more to that. A number of them, even their families, their wives.
Anyway, guys, that's all on the show.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for watching. Jasiri is up next at 10. I'm Joe Hansen.
I'm Olive MOD.
And I'm Benga Borough. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye. Over. Bonjour.